Chapter 1109. Putting on the silver set, Yi Chen operated his Jin Yuan and entered the set. In the next moment, the set burst out with a dazzling silver-white radiance, looking like a small silver sun. Refining an artifact was not difficult. The first step was to let one's Jin Yuan enter the artifact and fuse it with its source power. This way, the artifact's power would more or less be revealed. The second step was to leave a soul imprint in the depths of the artifact. In this way, the soul and qi would fuse, and the artifact's power would be pushed to the limit. In a short period of time, Yi Chen had already fused his Jin Yuan with the silver set's source power and left a soul imprint. However, it would still take some time before he could truly familiarize himself with the silver set. The defense has more than doubled, and the energy has increased by 30%. Among the same grade of equipment, the basic defense and energy amplification were about the same. However, every equipment set had its own unique set attributes. For example, some equipment sets could increase movement speed in addition to the basic amplification, while others could increase defense or directly add defensive skills. There were even some that could increase domains. Of course, these kinds of equipment sets were very rare, 1 in 100. It's rare to find a Heavenly King grade set. It would be a pity if I don't refine it into my body. In the next year, I'll try to fuse the hunting set into my body. Myriad Arrow King was extremely fond of the hunting set and said to Yi Chen with a smile. Yi Chen faintly nodded, "Me too." Life and Death Kings could already reach the level of refining treasures into their bodies. The so-called refining of treasures into one's body meant that one's body and the treasures would be completely integrated. This was an extremely slow process. Ordinary Life and Death Kings would need at least dozens of years to reach this step. Reaching the 5th or even 6th layer of Life and Death realm would take at least a year and a half. Fusing artifacts into one's body had many benefits. The first was convenience. Wearing a full set of artifacts was not very aesthetically pleasing, and everyone preferred to wear a single piece of clothing. The second was that one could bring out the attributes of the set to its peak without the slightest barrier. The third was that it would not easily attract other people's attention. After spending 300,000 divine coins for the silver set, Yi Chen only had 8,000 divine coins left. Since he couldn't use it for cultivation, fusing artifacts into one's body was the best choice. The Paradise of Gods also had 4 seasons. Spring passed, summer passed, and it was now autumn. The wooden house in front of the bamboo forest was still lush with greenery. The river in front of the wooden house flowed, performing a moving melody. Inside the wooden house, Yi Chen sat cross-legged on the bamboo floor with his upper body naked. His body was emitting a silvery white light. The light was almost tangible, and one could vaguely see that it was a silvery white suit. The energy-based suit gradually hid into Yi Chen's body, and it merged with Yi Chen's flesh and blood. 1 day passed. The silvery white light disappeared, and some light patterns appeared on Yi Chen's body. Soon after, the light patterns disappeared into his body, becoming one with his body. Refining the weapon into the body, success. Hu. Exhaling a mouthful of turbid air, Yi Chen opened his eyes and slowly stood up. As expected of a low-level Heavenly King set. It took me an entire 7 months to completely merge it into my body. However, these 7 months have not been wasted. The basic defense of the silver set equipment has been tripled, and the energy has been increased by 40%. It's even more powerful than wearing it on the outside. Pushing open the door, Yi Chen walked out. On the grassland, Yi Chen suddenly circulated his Jin Yuan, activating the power of the silver set equipment. Pop! A soft sound was heard, and a layer of silvery white light spread out from the surface of Yi Chen's body. Under the cover of the light, Yi Chen seemed to have turned into an Iron Man made of silver. Taking out the dragon spring sword, Yi Chen flipped his hand and stabbed into his own body. All of a sudden, a huge amount of fire sparks shot out, but his body remained perfectly unharmed, not even a mark. The silver-white light had blocked out the sword power completely. Compared to before, Yi Chen's current defense could be said to be terrifying. Among the quasi-emperors, no one could break through his defense. After all, he still had the body-protecting sword intent. The basic defense has been tripled. Once I activate the silver protection, my defense will continue to increase, reaching 5 times. Even a beginner combat emperor would have a hard time injuring me in a short period of time. Buzz! A silver light flashed, and a silvery white halo rippled out from Yi Chen's body. This was the additional defensive skill of the silver set equipment, Silver Protection. The silver protection was very powerful, and it could increase Yi Chen's defense by 5 times. The weakness was that it consumed a lot of the power of the silver set equipment. It could only be activated for 15 minutes a day. After that, the power of the silver set equipment would drop to a certain level, and the silver protection would not be able to be activated anymore. The next activation would have to wait for the set's power to recover. But for Yi Chen, 15 minutes was not a short time. On the 9th floor of the God of War Pagoda, Yi Chen challenged the grey-robed evil king again. Limitless triple tremor. After taking Yi Chen's extreme sun essence transformation, the grey-robed evil king's body started to melt like a wax man. But just like last time, he used his most powerful move, slapping at Yi Chen through the air. Yi Chen's body shook, and the silvery white light on his body flickered, almost extinguishing. The next moment, blood leaked out from the corner of Yi Chen's mouth, and his face turned pale. Such a powerful attack. My defense has been increased by 3 times, but I still almost couldn't withstand it. Yi Chen was secretly shocked by the grey-robed evil king's attack. In terms of attack, he was probably not much weaker than a low-level battle emperor. Die! Yi Chen forcefully gathered his true essence and stabbed at the grey-robed evil king. This sword was momentary brilliance. The extreme sun essence transformation might be powerful, but it required sufficient preparation. Currently, the true essence in his body was in a mess, and he couldn't use the extreme sun essence transformation. The space was still, and a dazzling radiance exploded. The grey-robed evil king had fallen. With the help of the silver set equipment, Yi Chen finally passed the 9th floor of the God of War Pagoda and arrived at the 10th floor. Swish! Just at the 10th floor, Yi Chen was instantly killed by a sword chi. The opponent was a sword king of demons, and his eyes were tightly shut. At the entrance of the God of War Pagoda, Yi Chen walked out with a bitter smile. The difficulty of the 10th floor was beyond his imagination. The Devil Race's Sword King was more than 10 times stronger than King Maul. One had to know that with his current defense, King Maul wouldn't be able to do anything to him within 100 moves, but the Devil Race's Sword King killed him with a single slash. Of course, he also knew that he relied on the silver set equipment to reach the 10th floor of the God of War Pagoda, and his attack power wasn't that strong. Seriously speaking, he was definitely the weakest among the battle emperors. After passing the 9th floor of the God of War Pagoda, Yi Chen obtained 30,000 divine coins as a reward. Next, Yi Chen went to the survival tower. Unfortunately, he didn't reach the 10th floor and was still stuck on the 9th floor. Compared to the God of War Pagoda, the survival tower was more of a test of one's inner qualities. External help wasn't that important. Moreover, Yi Chen had just reached the 10th floor of the God of War Pagoda, so he would naturally fail the survival tower. There's still a long way to go before the extreme sun essence is perfected. I hope I can improve it in the next 4 to 5 months. The first 3 floors of the martial technique pagoda were for First Revolution or Second Revolution martial arts. The 4th floor was for Third Revolution martial arts, and the effect was the same as the 3rd floor. It was 100 times more efficient than the outside world, but the fees were very high. Yi Chen was a high-ranking member, so the fees were half, but it still cost 500 divine coins a day, which was 15,000 divine coins a month. On the 4th floor of the martial technique pagoda, Yi Chen set up the environment for extreme sun essence cultivation and started cultivating. High-ranking members went on a hunt once a year, and Yi Chen's second hunt didn't have the same luck as the first time. He met 3 battle emperors, and the most dangerous time was when he was surrounded by 4 enemy teams. The 3 battle emperors were the Saber Demon King, Du Ling King, and Zack King. The Saber Demon King was a battle emperor from the demonic god Paradise. His saber art was very powerful, and it wasn't inferior to the divine Saber King. Yi Chen exchanged over 70 moves with him before he couldn't hold on any longer and immediately escaped. The Du-Ling king was a battle emperor from the evil god Paradise. His great spirit art was abnormally terrifying, and it could constantly absorb your energy to attack you. It could even interrupt the execution of your martial arts. In terms of combat power, he had already reached the level of a mid-level battle emperor. In just 4 moves, Yi Chen vomited blood and had to escape. If it wasn't for the silver suit that increased his energy and increased his speed, he might not have been able to escape unscathed. As for Zack King, he was a battle emperor from the Green Spirit Paradise. The Green Spirit Paradise was the paradise of the Green Men race. The Green Men race and the human race had similar names, but the difference was like heaven and earth. The Green Men race was tall and burly, and they didn't have any hair on their body. Their blood was also green, and the biggest difference was that they had a crocodile-like tail. Zack King wasn't considered strong, and he was much weaker than the Saber Demon King. Within 200 moves, Yi Chen wasn't injured at all. Of course, Yi Chen was more passive. After all, Yi Chen was only strong in defense, but his attacks weren't as good as his opponents. Furthermore, his opponent's defense was stronger than Yi Chen's, and Yi Chen's attacks were like tickles to him. During the second hunt, the Exorcist Squad's total income was only a mere 150,000 shunbi, and they didn't kill a single enemy. However, the second hunt made Yi Chen completely famous. Which one of the Saber Demon King, Du-Ling King, and Zack King was easy to deal with? Below the Battle Emperor, even the strongest Boundary Emperor would have to flee immediately if they encountered them. They wouldn't dare to go against them at all. Evil Child King had escaped from the Battle Emperor's pursuit several times because of his speed. If he were to go against a Battle Emperor, he would be courting death. On the 4th floor of the Martial Skill Pagoda. This was a world filled with light. There were 3 suns in the sky, and each of them was like a huge fireball, emitting terrifying heat. The extreme sun essence contained the profound meaning of fire, profound meaning of yang, and profound meaning of light. Under such an environment, Yi Chen would be able to perfect this sword art faster. The heat distorted one's vision, and everywhere one looked was distorted. Yi Chen floated in the sky with his eyes closed, and there was a figure practicing the sword art in his mind. 1 day passed, 2 days passed. On the 3rd day, Yi Chen abruptly opened his eyes, shooting out 2 beams of high heat beams. Ha! With a roar, Yi Chen performed the extreme sun essence for the umpteenth time. His entire body overlapped with one of the suns in the sky, and the dragon spring sword in his hand was like a black hole, constantly devouring the essence of the sun around it. After devouring a large amount of the essence of the sun, the dragon spring sword couldn't maintain its original color anymore, and turned into a sword of light. Even the hilt seemed to be made of light. Kai! With a swing of the sword, the world that was filled with light dimmed for a moment. In the next moment, one of the suns in the sky exploded, turning into countless fiery meteors. Extreme Sun Essence. Chapter 11:10. It was exceedingly difficult to master a 3rd-rank martial skill, especially the first one. Under normal circumstances, it would take at least 30 years for him to train his first 3rd change martial art to completion. If it were someone else in the God Paradise, it would be 100 years, or even 300 years. However, he had stayed on the 4th floor of the Martial Skill Tower for about 3 months. Calculating it by 100 times, it would be more than 300 months, which was exactly 30 years. Of course, this was the first 3rd revolution martial art. Before he created it, he didn't have any experience. Now that he had the experience, it should be easier for him to create a 2nd 3rd revolution martial art. Clang clang clang. On the 10th floor of War God Tower, Yi Chen finally exchanged blows with the Demon's Sword King. He wasn't instantly killed. This Demon's Sword King's strength was frightening to the extreme. The huge black sword in his hand was like a huge cutting machine that could cut through the stars in the universe. With a flash of black light, anything would be cut apart. Most importantly, the opponent's eyes were closed, as if he wasn't going all out. Just like this, every time Yi Chen blocked, his body would shake and blood would spurt out. The 9th move, Puff. Yi Chen was cleaved into 2 and shattered into nothingness. Powerful. Yi Chen couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. In terms of strength, The Demon Sword King was already a peak battle emperor, while he himself had entered the ranks of mid-battle emperors. Leaving the War God Tower, Yi Chen arrived at the Survival Tower. After an hour, Yi Chen walked out. This time, he passed the 9th floor and arrived at the 10th floor, earning him a whole 100,000 shunbi. Huff. Let's go drink. In God Paradise, everyone would only occasionally enjoy delicacies. Eating or not eating was of no importance to them. Life and Death Kings no longer needed food to sustain their lives. However, everyone liked to drink wine. Yi Chen spent at least several thousand shunbi on wine every year, and occasionally, tens of thousands. There weren't many people in the tavern, so Yi Chen happily drank. Yi Chen, you're here too. A voice was heard. It was Liu Di. Liu Di, sit. Yi Chen pointed at the seat opposite him. Liu Di sat down and took the magma wine that Yi Chen handed to him. He took a big gulp and said, I haven't had this in a month. It feels good. Yi Chen, there's still 10 months until the next hunt. Will you be fine after that? Liu Di asked. Nothing much. What's wrong? The Sun Essence Extreme Transformation had already reached the large success stage, and Yi Chen was indeed fine. As for increasing his cultivation, it was not something that could be done in a day, nor was it something that could be done in a year or two. How about going to the Black Tortoise Galaxy with us? Liu Di said as he drank. Black Tortoise Galaxy? Yi Chen's eyebrows twitched. Right, the Black Tortoise Galaxy has the most experts. Led by the demons, the evil races have invaded many planets in the Black Tortoise Galaxy. They often engage in wars with us humans. In order to motivate people to join the war, the human race has long since implemented the military strategy. The demons are the same. The so-called military strategy is the military rank promotion system. There are 9 ranks in total: low soldier, mid soldier, high soldier, centurion, minor commander, major commander, commander, general, and marshal. Unless one's cultivation base has reached the 7th sky of life and death realm, anyone who joins the army starts from a low soldier. Kill 10 low soldiers and you'll become a mid soldier. Kill 20 mid soldiers and you'll become a high soldier. Kill 50 high soldiers and you'll become a centurion. Kill 1 minor commander and 10 centurions and you'll become a minor commander. Kill 1 major commander and 5 minor commanders and you'll become a major commander. As for becoming a commander, it's even more difficult. You'll have to kill 2 commanders and 10 major commanders. As for general and marshal, that's a military rank for titled monarchs. No matter how strong we are, we can't become generals or marshals. Liu Di continued to explain. Yi Chen said, seems like military rank promotion is very difficult. Isn't that so? The first 3 military ranks are still fine, but once you become a centurion, it will be difficult to get promoted to a minor lieutenant. To become a minor lieutenant, you will have to kill 10 centurions. Most importantly, a centurion is not alone. He has 180 soldiers by his side. Even if you are stronger than the enemy centurion, you may still be surrounded and killed. Liu Di seemed to have experienced this as he nodded vigorously. As he spoke, Liu Di took out a badge and said with a smile, "Look, this is a centurion badge. Don't look down on this badge. You can get a discount in the military store. Moreover, joining the army also gives you a salary. A centurion gets 3,000 yuan stones a year. It's not much, but it's still quite a lot after accumulating. In short, there are many benefits." Do many people from the Paradise of Gods join the army? Yi Chen asked. Liu Di nodded, that's right. Basically, all the martial monarchs and combat emperors have joined the army. The one with the highest ranking is the martial monarch. He's already a commander-in-chief. TSK, a commander-in-chief. Divine Saber Monarch and Vermilion Bird Monarch are commander-in-chiefs, and they can also lead 1,000 men. When are we going to the Black Tortoise Galaxy? Yi Chen felt that it was necessary for him to take a look. Every man had the dream of becoming a soldier, and he was no exception. 3 days later. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. The 7 members of the Exorcist troupe gathered together. To travel from the Paradise of Gods to the outer universe, one had to take the ship of God, and it cost 100 shunbi per person. The ship of God took off, flying towards the Black Tortoise Galaxy. As they chatted, Yi Chen learned of the 6 military ranks. The Myriad Arrow Monarch had the highest military rank, a minor commander-in-chief. Liu Di, Zhong Yinyin, Sima Fei, and Yuan Hong were centurions. Lu Wenjie had only joined the army for 2 years, and he was a superior soldier. Sima Fei drank his wine while confidently saying, "I've already killed 10 centurions. As long as I kill 1 minor commander-in-chief, I can become a minor commander-in-chief. I'm still a long way off. I've only killed 5 centurions." Zhong Yinyin said helplessly, "You're much better than me. I've only killed 3 centurions." Yuan Hong grinned. The Myriad Arrow Monarch laughed. "Fighting a war requires not only martial strength, but also intelligence. You're not weak, but you only know how to kill indiscriminately. You don't know how to lead a troop to kill the enemy." Yuan Hong scratched his head. "Can't help it. This isn't my strong point." Thousand Arrow King chuckled, then turned his head and said to Yi Chen, "This is your first time joining the army, so stay with us. Liu Di and the others are all centurions. You can choose any one of them to follow." Yi Chen nodded. A centurion could lead 100 soldiers at most, and Lu Wenjie was Sima Fei's subordinate. The god ship pierced through space, faster than any puppet battleship. In a short while, it arrived at Black Tortoise Galaxy and stopped on a huge planet. "Let's go." The group of 7 flew toward the nearest military planet. Black Tortoise Galaxy had 10 military planets, each guarded by one of the 10 great marshals. The 7 headed toward the Gold Armor planet guarded by Marshal Golden Spear. The Gold Armor planet was a bit bigger than the Fire Bird planet, having a diameter of 30 million li. There were countless experts there, and even 100 Fire Bird planets couldn't compare to it. It should be known that only Life and Death Kings could join the army. Sea of Soul Realm warriors didn't even have the qualifications to join the army. Normally, a great marshal could lead 5 million soldiers, which meant 5 million Life and Death Kings. The kings of Elysium couldn't even compare, having only 1,000 kings. Of course, the reason why there were so few kings in Elysium was mainly because the people inside couldn't come out. Life and Death Kings had a lifespan of 100,000 years, but in Elysium, it was only 1,000 years. If kings in Elysium also had a lifespan of 100,000 years, then there would be at least tens of thousands of kings. The 4 great life star fields had 4 to 5,000 life planets, and the population of each planet was no less than that of Elysium. 4 to 5,000 life planets were equivalent to 4 to 5,000 mid-grade worlds. The number of kings could be easily imagined. Soon, the 7 arrived at the Gold Armor planet. There was only one city on the planet where one could join the army, and it was called the Armor City. It was a palace on the west side of the city, where Life and Death Kings would enter from time to time. So many kings. It was Yi Chen's first time seeing so many Life and Death Kings gathered in one place. "Are you guys here to join the army?" the nearest registrar asked. Thousand Arrow King said, "We've already joined the army. This time, we're here to bring him." He pointed at Yi Chen. "All right." The registrar looked at Yi Chen and said, "Do you want to be an off-staff soldier or an in-staff soldier?" Yi Chen asked, "What's off-staff and what's in-staff?" Off-staff soldiers can leave the army at any time without any notification. In-staff soldiers have to stay in the army and obey orders. If they don't obey orders and leave without permission, they will be punished according to military law. Of course, in-staff soldiers enjoy better treatment, while off-staff soldiers are much worse. Their pay is also less. "Yi Chen, you're an off-staff soldier." Liu Di reminded. "I'm an off-staff soldier." Although being an in-staff soldier was good, it didn't give him much freedom. The registrar nodded. "You can start now. Remember, don't fill in any false information." The registration was very simple: name, age, current cultivation base, and origin. Apart from that, one also had to leave an image in the recording crystal. After the registration, the registrar gave Yi Chen a badge. This is a low-ranking soldier badge. It needs to be refined with blood. Pausing for a bit, the registrar continued, "There are 100 camps in the Gold Armor planet, 82 of which are in-staff, and 18 are off-staff. You can only go to the off-staff camps. You can ask your friends which ones are off-staff. I don't need to tell you. Outside the palace, 7 people walked on the street. Sima Fei said, in-staff soldiers pay particular attention to discipline and follow orders. Off-staff soldiers are more free, and can choose any troop they want. Of course, everyone here is a life and death king, not an army composed of ordinary martial artists. At the crucial moment, there won't be any problems. Yi Chen nodded. An army composed of ordinary martial artists required too much discipline, because they were closer to normal people and had all kinds of negative emotions. Once there was no discipline, it would be disastrous. However, an army composed of life and death king warriors would not have this problem, since they knew what to do at the right time. In other words, a life and death king warrior was like a dragon, and a group of life and death king warriors were like a group of dragons. Chapter 11:11. The Gold Armor planet had numerous mountain ranges, one of which was extremely huge. It was called Yunlai Mountain Range. The mountain range was more than 3 million li long, with hundreds of large branches and countless small branches. In the south and north of the mountain range were 2 military camps, Yunlai Barracks and Deep Valley Barracks. Yunlai Barracks and Deep Valley Barracks were both external barracks, and the number of soldiers stationed there was not fixed. Normally, a barracks would have around 50,000 soldiers. However, the external barracks had to have 200,000 soldiers. This was mainly because the external soldiers could enter and leave the Gold Armor planet at will. In a year, they would spend very little time on the planet. If there were 200,000 soldiers, then there would be 150,000 outside and 50,000 on the planet. The highest rank in Yunlai Barracks was general, and there was more than one of them. Of course, there would only be one general at a time, and to become a general, one had to be at least a 7th-layer life and death realm titled monarch. On the huge training field, hundreds of soldiers were exchanging pointers. Gold Armor planet was a life planet, and the energy repulsion was very severe. Although these soldiers were all life and death kings, their destructive power was very limited. They simply couldn't damage the training field, which was completely paved with special metals and covered with countless arrays. Buzz! A beam of light shone. It was the light of a teleportation array. Yi Chen could clearly see a team of 500 people wrapped within the light. They were clearly preparing for battle. At the center of the barracks was a large group of grand buildings. These buildings were arranged in a circular pattern, looking like a hollow pillar that was more than 1,000 meters tall. In fact, this pillar was the business district of the barracks. There were restaurants, weapon shops, pill shops, material shops, and all sorts of high-end shops. It was a very prosperous place. Thousand Arrow King explained, the population of Yunlai Barracks is around 200,000, and there are dozens of generals. The bosses of the business district are these generals. Of course, there are also some relatively powerful commanders. Don't look down on this business district. It earns a frightening amount of yuan stones every year. After all, the soldiers in the barracks are all life and death kings. The consumption of one of them is equivalent to the consumption of hundreds of ordinary martial artists. If you can own a shop, it's like owning a hen that can lay golden eggs. Indeed. Yi Chen faintly nodded. There were more than 5 million life and death kings on the entire Gold Armor planet. Apart from other military planets, there was no other planet that could earn more yuan stones than this place. Perhaps any random shop would be enough to make people fight to the death. Can't you build a shop outside the barracks? Yi Chen suddenly asked. Sima Fei explained, aside from the military camps and cities, no shops are allowed to be built on military planets. Anyone who discovers it will be punished according to military law. Although you can open a shop in the cities, there are just too many shops there, and there are too many choices. It is not like the military camps, where there is only one business district, and the customers are all life and death realm warriors. In addition to the soldiers, there were more ordinary people on Gold Armor planet. Ordinary people all lived in cities and towns, and their numbers were in the trillions. Yi Chen had long known this. Come, let's go to the Sun Moon restaurant for a drink. Yuan Hong, who loved to drink, suggested. Sun Moon restaurant. It was one of the 3 great restaurants in Cloud-Gathering Barracks. It was 7 stories tall, and the higher the floor, the better the wine sold. On the 7th floor of the restaurant, TSK, this Flaming Sun wine and Moonlight wine are not inferior to the Magma wine and Ice Sea wine. They have a different taste. Yuan Hong gulped down a mouthful of wine and said in a carefree manner. Lu Wenjie, who rarely spoke, said, "The boss behind Sun Moon Restaurant, Snow Air Emperor, used to be a member of God Paradise. This Flaming Sun wine and Moonlight wine were developed based on the Magma wine and Ice Sea wine." En. Zhong Yinyin nodded. Snow Air Emperor is also a master brewer. If it were someone else, it would be impossible to brew Flaming Sun wine and Moonlight wine based on the characteristics of the Magma wine and Ice Sea wine. Snow Air Emperor was one of the generals of Cloud-Gathering Barracks. She was a rather legendary woman. Like the 7 others, she also came from God Paradise. However, she ultimately failed to become a battle emperor. After her cultivation base broke through to the 7th layer, she was transported out of God Paradise. There were not many guests on the 7th floor. There were only a dozen tables and 30 people. Have you heard? Blue Fox King led a troop of 1,000 people and annihilated 4,000 enemies. He himself was promoted to commander because of this battle. Very powerful. However, Blue Fox King is not the only one in the limelight. Scarlet Sky King led 1,000 people out last month, and when he returned this month, he also annihilated 3,800 enemies. Sigh, I'm still a centurion. I wonder when I'll be able to become a commander. At the very least, I'll be able to become a minor commander. You, take your time. If you want to become a minor commander, you'll have to kill a minor commander and 10 centurions. It's not easy. At the next table, a few soldiers were chatting. After listening to their conversation, the Thousand Arrow King smiled and said, "The Blue Fox King is a very powerful and resourceful person. Last year, I worked with him as his assistant. That time, we also killed more than 3,000 enemies. Minor commanders could lead 500 people, and major commanders could lead 1,000. Normally, when a troop had 1,000 people, a minor commander would be the assistant of a major commander and would listen to his commands. You're making my heart itch. Why don't we set off with our troops today?" Yuan Hong had always been a battle maniac. He licked his lips and said excitedly, "No rush. We'll move in a few days." Myriad Arrow King shook his head. "Everyone, this is a gift from our boss." At this moment, a servant walked over with a round tray. On the round tray were 14 bottles of wine. Yi Chen glanced at the attendant. The attendant was not a life and death king, and his cultivation base was at early C of Soul Realm. Thinking about it, no life and death king would be willing to work under someone else, not to mention being an attendant of a restaurant. He reckoned that the clerks in the barracks were all recruited, or came from the owner's sect or family. "Your boss?" Myriad Arrow King raised his head in astonishment. "Yes, our boss will be here in a moment." The attendant put down the tray and turned to leave. Not long after, the restaurant's boss arrived. She was a beautiful young woman who seemed to be in her 20s, not much older than the rest. However, the aura emanating from her body was as deep as the ocean, profound and frightening. Her cultivation base had clearly reached the 7th layer, a true titled monarch. "Snow Air Emperor." Myriad Arrow King blurted out. Snow Air Emperor walked over with a beaming smile. Waving her right hand, the insignia on the back of her hand was faintly discernible. She smiled and said, "Everyone comes from Paradise of God. This can be considered fate." She wouldn't receive ordinary people. Only people from the Paradise of God had the right to receive her. She knew that people from the Paradise of God weren't ordinary people. If they were given enough time, their achievements wouldn't be low. These two are. Apart from Lu Wenjie and Yi Chen, Snow Air Emperor had seen the other members of Demon Hunter Squad before. She couldn't help but ask Myriad Arrow King. Myriad Arrow King introduced, "This is Lu Wenjie. He entered Paradise of God less than 20 years ago, yet he has already become a quasi-emperor. He is a rare genius. This is Yi Chen, and he is even more amazing. He entered Paradise of God less than 10 years ago, yet he has also become a quasi-emperor. Moreover, He is not an ordinary quasi-emperor, but the strongest one. He still didn't know that Yi Chen had already reached the 10th floor of War God Pagoda and possessed the strength of a battle emperor. Oh! Snow Air Emperor's eyes lit up. If Lu Wenjie's talent had surprised her, then Yi Chen's talent had astonished her. He had become the strongest quasi-emperor in less than 10 years. How much potential did he have? It's my honor to meet you. Snow Air Emperor didn't have the arrogance of a titled monarch or general. Of course, it would be foolish to put on airs in front of such a genius with a bright future. Me too. It's an honor to meet you. Lu Wenjie and Yi Chen nodded. Since they were all from Paradise of God, everyone chatted happily. The others on the 7th floor of the restaurant were dumbfounded. They all knew Snow Air Emperor, but they had never seen Snow Air Emperor lower himself to receive guests. In 3 months, I plan to lead 50,000 people to the Xuanwu ruins. If you have time, you can choose to join me. After chatting for a while, Snow Air Emperor suddenly said, "Lead 50,000 people?" Myriad Arrow King and the others were shocked. Yi Chen's brows also twitched. According to military rank, the number of people one could lead was different. Generally, a centurion could lead 100 soldiers, a lieutenant 500, a general 1,000, a commander 5,000, and a general 50,000. 10,000 people was like a sea of people, not to mention 50,000 life and death kings. As for the Xuanwu ruins, it was a ruin in the northern part of Black Tortoise Starfield. There used to be countless stars there, but because of war, countless stars had been destroyed, turning it into a wasteland. As time passed, it became the Xuanwu ruins. Right. Snow Air Emperor nodded. You should have time, right? Yes. Myriad Arrow King smiled. The more people he fought, the more people he would kill, and his military rank would naturally rise faster. For example, in an enemy army of 50,000 people, there would be 1 general, 10 commanders, 50 lieutenants, 100 lieutenants, and 500 centurions. He was currently a minor lieutenant and had already killed 3 minor lieutenants. As long as he killed 2 more minor lieutenants and a major commander, he would become a major commander and his military rank would rise by 1 rank. All right. At that time, you must stay in the camp. Otherwise, you'll miss it. Snow Air Emperor nodded. After Snow Air Emperor left, Zhong Yinyan said enviously, "Becoming a general is truly awe-inspiring. You can lead 50,000 troops." Sima Fei chuckled, "Generals rarely go out. Snow Air Emperor hasn't led troops to battle for at least 10 years. It seems like the generals in the camp take turns going out to battle." Right. Liu Di said, "Yunlai camp is an external camp with a dozen generals. If they were to go out to battle together, they wouldn't be able to provide so many soldiers. You should know that even a centurion needs permission from the top. It's not like they can just leave with their men. Generals need permission from the Grand Marshal." Through chatting, Yi Chen gained a better understanding of the military. For example, a centurion could only lead 100 people at most. Before leaving, they would have to apply to the top and report the names of all the members. Only after receiving permission could they head to the Black Tortoise ruins. Otherwise, they would be punished by military law, which was extremely serious. Generals going out to battle was even more impressive, as they needed permission from the Grand Marshal. After all, 50,000 was not a small number, and they couldn't afford to lose it. Chapter 11-12. On the 3rd day, Thousand Arrow King formed a 500-man team. Apart from him, there were 5 centurions under him, Liu Di, Sima Fei, Yuan Hong, Zhong Yinyan, and a centurion called Bloodfist King. As for Lu Wenjie and Yi Chen, one was a superior soldier, while the other was a junior soldier, serving under Liu Di and Yuan Hong respectively. The majority of the 500-man team did not know each other or were not familiar with each other. However, as long as they joined the team, they would have to obey Thousand Arrow King's commands. Those who disobeyed would be punished according to military rules, and those who caused serious consequences might even be thrown into prison. No one dared to take their future lightly. Buzz! A beam of light shone, and the 500-man team disappeared from the platform. Heaven Eye Star was a small life star close to the human race in the Black Tortoise ruins. It had a diameter of 3 million li, and its color was milky white with a hint of black. It looked like a huge eye, which was where the name Heaven Eye Star came from. Heaven Eye Star was garrisoned by a great general with millions of troops. What was a great general? Actually, the military rank was the same as that of a general. However, whether one could become a great general or not had nothing to do with one's battle record. One had to obtain the approval of at least 5 marshals to become a great general. Otherwise, no matter how high one's battle record was, it would be useless. After all, although some people were ridiculously powerful, they might not be suited to lead troops into battle. Commanding millions of troops would be a joke. There were many teleportation platforms on Heaven Eye Star. One of the smaller ones flickered, and 500 people appeared. It was the team led by Thousand Arrow King. This is Heaven Eye Star. It was Yi Chen's first time coming to Heaven Eye Star. Yuan Hong said, Heaven Eye Star is the outpost star, as well as the human race's first line of defense. Once the demon army arrives, this will be the most crucial battlefield. Of course, the demons won't be so impulsive. As long as they dare to come, Heaven Eye Star can summon an army of millions in a short period of time. It should be known that there are more than 1,000 teleportation arrays on Heaven Eye Star. With the geographical advantage, unless the demons outnumber us by several times, they will have to return in defeat. Yi Chen faintly nodded. Life Star was not an ordinary planet. Anyone who came here would be repelled. Ordinary life and death kings couldn't even destroy a small mountain on a life star. Even Yi Chen could only leave a huge crack on a life star. As far as the eye could see, Heaven Eye Planet was filled with battle fortresses. These battle fortresses varied in size. The smaller ones were only a few dozen meters wide and had 2 floors. They could fit around 500 people. The bigger ones were the size of a small city and had 9 floors. They could easily fit tens of thousands of people. Be it the big or small battle fortresses, they were all engraved with countless arrays and restrictions. On the surface of the battle fortresses, there were countless cannons. It wasn't hard to imagine that once an enemy came over, they would definitely suffer a fatal blow. Where's your order? A group of people walked over. The leader of the group was at the 3rd sky of life and death realm, which was not low at all. The Myriad Arrow Monarch took out a token and handed it over. The leader took the token and carefully examined it. Then, he faintly nodded and returned the token to the Myriad Arrow Monarch, reminding, you only have 500 people. You'd better not stay in the depths of Black Tortoise ruins for too long, lest the enemy finds out your whereabouts and all of you fall. Many thanks for the reminder. We understand. The Myriad Arrow Monarch put away the token. Once the inspection team left, the Myriad Arrow Monarch took out a puppet battleship from his storage ring. It was a mid-sized Heavenly King-grade battleship. It was emerald green in color, and was even bigger than Yi Chen's small Heavenly King-grade battleship. Come on. The Myriad Arrow Monarch was the first to enter the battleship, and the rest followed. Swish. The emerald battleship took off, flying toward the atmosphere of Heaven Eye Planet. Arriving in the vacuum, the battleship continuously accelerated. When it reached half the speed of light, the space in front of the battleship distorted, forming a horizontal funnel. The battleship entered it and disappeared. The interior of the battleship was luxurious. Everyone was chatting and drinking, and the atmosphere was relaxed. As long as I kill one more minor commander, I can become one. Too bad, it's too difficult. One of the 5 centurions, the Bloodfist King, was sitting with his friend, chatting and drinking. Don't worry, there will always be a chance. Anyway, no matter what rank the enemy is, you'll get contribution points. His friend smiled. Military contribution points, as the name suggested, represented the amount of contribution one had made to the army. Generally, killing a low-ranked soldier would give 1 military contribution point. Killing a mid-ranked soldier would give 10 military contribution points. Killing a high-ranked soldier would give 100, a centurion 1,000, a minor lieutenant 10,000, a major lieutenant 100,000, a commander 1 million, and a general 10 million. Contribution points could be exchanged for many things, such as yuan stones, artifacts, materials, pills, puppet battleships, and all kinds of secret arts. However, contribution points could also be exchanged with yuan stones. In other words, 1 yuan stone could be exchanged for 1 contribution point, and 1 million could be exchanged for 1 million contribution points. The higher the contribution points, the more precious the things could be exchanged for. Some things simply couldn't be bought in the outside world, and could even be said to be priceless. The Blood Fist King once used 30,000 contribution points to exchange for a soul defense secret art. On the east side of the battleship hall, Yi Chen, with your strength and means, I reckon you can be promoted to Centurion or even minor commander this time. Liu Di looked at Yi Chen. Zhong Yinyan was shocked. I can be promoted to Centurion or even minor commander this time? Isn't that too fast? She couldn't believe it. To become a Centurion in one go, one would have to kill at least 10 low-rank soldiers, 20 mid-rank soldiers, and 50 high-rank soldiers. It didn't seem like a lot, but it was actually a lot. After all, this was a war, and the enemies would either not appear or appear in hundreds or thousands. They had 500 people on their side, and Yi Chen was only one. Sima Fei smiled. Did you forget about Yi Chen's sword domain? Against ordinary life and death kings, who would be able to move? Right, I forgot. This means that Yi Chen might really be promoted to Centurion or even minor commander in one go. Zhong Yinyan smiled bitterly. It was truly infuriating to compare oneself with others. Yi Chen's sword domain was simply a group-killing weapon. Although the more enemies there were, the greater the burden on the sword domain, covering dozens of enemies at once was not a problem. Yi Chen shook his head and smiled. The battlefield is ever-changing. Who knows, there might be powerful experts among the enemies. Not to mention the demonic god paradise, the evil god paradise, and the yaksha god paradise. Although some people had never entered the paradise of gods, they might not be weaker than the quasi-emperors of the paradise of gods after thousands, tens of thousands of years, or even tens of thousands of years. They might also be as powerful as the kings of the paradise of gods. Thousand Arrow King nodded. I indeed encountered a powerful king comparable to a battle emperor. He was an old antique. If not for our quick escape, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Life and death kings had a lifespan of 100,000 years. Countless people were stuck at the peak of 6th layer. Therefore, nobody knew how many old antique kings there were. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. It's about time. Thousand Arrow King controlled the battleship and returned to the starry sky. 3 days was enough for the Heavenly King battleship to travel 70 to 80 light years. They were currently approaching the depths of Black Tortoise ruins. Putting away the battleship, 500 people appeared in the starry sky. From now on, take turns releasing your soul power. When your soul power is depleted by 30%, switch to someone else. Remember, don't make any breaks in between. Thousand Arrow King was a minor commander, so any one of the 500 people had to obey his command. Anyone who disobeyed would be punished according to military rules. Just like that, this team of 500 people neatly flew toward the depths of the starry sky. Among the team, Yi Chen's eyes turned silver from time to time. Soul Eye was his secret, and he didn't want to use it until the critical moment. However, he could transfer a part of the Soul Eye's power to his eyes. This way, his observation range would also reach 100 million li, which was 1/10 of the Soul Eye. Ordinary life and death kings, even if they used soul detection secret arts, their observation range would only be around 10 million li, unless their soul power surpassed ordinary people's. 1 day passed, then 2. Seems like I have to reduce the number of observations. The consumption of soul power is too fast. Soul power was a person's mental power. If one consumed too much soul power, their mental power would wither, and their battle power would decrease. This was also the reason why Yi Chen rarely used soul attacks. After all, a soul attack would consume 10 to 20% of his soul power, and it could only be used in one-on-one battles. Hundreds of millions of kilometers away, a team of more than 400 demons was flying toward them. Humans and beasts are too weak. They can't even withstand a single blow. In this month, we've killed more than 1,000 enemies. Beasts' battle power is not bad, but humans are clearly not. I really don't know why beasts became the vassals of humans. Humans' reproduction speed is too fast, and this is their advantage. Although beasts' reproduction speed is also fast, their innate intelligence is low, and their chance of entering life and death realm is low. This team of demons was full of spirit and arrogance. Let's find another team. After killing them all, we'll go back. Demon's junior commander grinned nastily. Half a day later, the two sides were less than 100 million li apart. There's a team of demons. A cold light flickered in Yi Chen's eyes. Demons' team? How many people? Thousand Arrow King's heart jumped as he asked. About 400. More than 400. They should have experienced battle. Everyone, listen up. Let's go. As a high-ranking member of God Paradise, how could Thousand Arrow King be afraid? As far as he was concerned, as long as his luck wasn't too bad and he didn't run into a battle emperor, they would win for sure. 30 million li. 10 million li. 5 million li. Commander, there's a team of humans. This team of demons finally discovered Yi Chen's group. Haha, kill them all. Demon's junior commander took out a battle axe and started to accelerate. Kill. The 5 million li distance only took 20 breaths of time at full speed. Soon, both sides could see each other. Chapter 11-13. The whistling streams of light shot out, densely packed and colorful. It was an attack from both sides. It was different from a one-on-one fight. In a one-on-one fight, there was still a need to test the waters. In a group fight, there was never a need to test the waters. Everyone went all out from the start. It was either you die or I die. Whoever held back would be giving the other party a chance to kill them. There was no room for regret. Boom, boom, boom. Dazzling lights exploded one after another. People were smashed to pieces, leaving behind ownerless armor and weapons. Yi Chen could clearly feel dozens of imprints merging into his low-ranking soldier badge. So that's how it is. Yi Chen came to a sudden realization. Among these dozens of imprints, some were strong and some were weak. The weakest was undoubtedly the low-ranking soldier's imprint, the slightly stronger was the middle-ranking soldier's imprint, and the strongest was the high-ranking soldier's imprint. As for these imprints, they came from everyone's military badges. The reason why the imprints could be produced was probably because they were refined with blood. It turned out that the material of military badges was a very magical substance. Once this substance was combined with a person's blood, it would immediately produce a unique imprint. This substance varied in strength and was roughly divided into 9 levels. Naturally, the imprints were also divided into 9 levels. If someone killed the owner of the badge, the military badge would sense it and release the imprint, merging into the other person's military badge. If it wasn't that person who killed the person, then the imprint would definitely not recognize you. This was because everyone's attack aura was different. The imprint would only recognize the person who killed the badge's owner. In Yi Chen's low-ranking soldier badge, there were a total of 14 imprints. The imprint in the middle was emitting a faint light. It was Yi Chen's imprint. The other imprints were dim. They were arranged according to their strength, from top to bottom. The strong ones were at the top, and the weak ones were at the bottom. There were a total of 3 rows. This is easy. Knowing how many people I killed won't cause any conflicts and contradictions. Without the imprint, it was easy to cause conflicts. If 2 attacks landed on the same person, who would know who killed them with just eyesight? Even if they knew, they probably wouldn't admit it. After a few breaths, the 2 sides quickly connected. Hum. An invisible wave spread out, and 30 to 40 demons suddenly found themselves unable to move. It was difficult for them to even move a finger, including the lieutenant general of the demons. In the next moment, countless golden sword lights shot over and penetrated the bodies of these demons. Some even penetrated through their armors and turned them into blood mist, which then disappeared. You guys are unlucky to have met us. The Thousand Arrows monarch didn't care that the demon's minor domain commander was killed by Yi Chen. He was now a minor domain commander, and if he wanted to become a major commander, he would need to kill a major commander and 5 minor domain commanders. Minor domain commanders were everywhere, but major commanders were several times harder to kill. After all, a lower military rank did not necessarily mean a lower strength. Some experts had just joined the army for a short period of time, but a higher military rank meant a higher strength. 36 imprints, 1 minor domain commander imprint, 2 centurion imprints, 8 superior soldier imprints, 15 intermediate soldier imprints, and 10 inferior soldier imprints. Yi Chen's strength was ridiculously strong compared to these demons. If it wasn't for the fact that these demons were too scattered, he could kill dozens of them with a single slash even without the split sword domain. Absolute strength could disregard numbers to a certain extent. This sentence had always been an iron law. So strong. Hiss. Yi Chen's strength left the Bloodfist monarch and the others dumbfounded. They had thought that the strongest was the Thousand Arrows monarch. Yi Chen, you have to leave a few for us. Yuan Hong's body expanded and turned into a 10-kilometer tall giant. His body was covered in golden light, and his fists were also shining with golden light. With a boom, dazzling golden light burst out, and at least 6 demons were smashed to pieces by his fist. However, when he saw that Yi Chen had killed many times more people than him, his face immediately turned gloomy. Yuan Hong, aren't you courting death by competing with Yi Chen? Liu Di's killing efficiency wasn't any lower than Yuan Hong's. He brandished his saber, and a green saber light swept out. 7 demons in his line of sight were dismembered, and their broken bodies were electrocuted into nothingness. Yeah, competing with Yi Chen is just self-torture. But the few of us can compete. Sima Fei's true form was a wind-splitting eagle, and he was extremely fast. His figure flickered, and every time he turned, a demon would be clawed into a bloody mist. The other demons felt a chill in their hearts. Let's compete. My Darkwood profound martial art is unique in area of effect killing. Zhong Yinyin giggled and quickly formed seals with both hands. Swish, swish, swish. Vines as thick as pythons coiled around the 8 demons, and they became tighter and tighter. The surface of the vines had barbs, and if they pierced into the body, even an Iron Man would lose a layer of skin. This was Zhong Yinin's Darkwood profound martial art, Death Coil. Not only could it bind the enemy, but it could also absorb their power. These 8 demons were too weak, and they were instantly sucked dry by the vines. As for Lu Wenjie's strength, he was second only to Yi Chen and the Thousand Arrows monarch. The long spear in his hand was truly a killing weapon. Wherever he went, he would kill. With a shake of the long spear, blood-colored spear flowers bloomed in the sky, one after another, like 100 flowers blooming at the same time. So frightening. Is this the strength of the God Paradise's geniuses? The God Paradise was the holy land for geniuses of the 4 great life star fields. What was a peak genius? The geniuses of the God Paradise were peak geniuses. Those who hadn't entered the God Paradise would only dare to call themselves geniuses, but not peak geniuses. This was because compared to the geniuses of the God Paradise, they could only compete with years. The trial of God only took place once every 10 years, and each time, only about 10 people would be able to enter the paradise of God. In other words, there would be 100,000 people every 100,000 years. Of course, not everyone could survive. The death rate of geniuses was also very high. Their lives were full of glory, but also full of ups and downs. It would not be an exaggeration to say that among the 7th layer and above, at least 30% of the geniuses had entered the God Paradise. And this was only because of the small number. For the 8th layer, this ratio was 70%, and for the 9th layer, it was close to 100%. Swish, swish, swish. If one were to say who was the most carefree and killed the most enemies, it would be the Thousand Arrows monarch. He only needed to draw his bow and shoot arrows again and again to kill the demons. In his eyes, all the demons were dumbfounded targets. Run. This group of demons was being slaughtered. How long had it been? When they arrived, there were more than 400 of them. But after a dozen breaths of time, not even 100 remained. In the end, only 5 demons managed to escape. Yi Chen and the rest couldn't take care of these 5. After all, the remaining demons were like bees in a nest, fleeing in all directions. It was very difficult to kill them all. Roar, roar. On the human side, Everyone was like a victorious soldier, shouting loudly. Delightful, truly delightful. More than 400 demons, but we killed them all. Only 5 of them managed to escape. Awesome is awesome, but those guys are too powerful. 30% of the demons were killed by them. I only killed 1. You're lucky, I didn't kill a single one. I killed 2. Putting away his silver bow, Thousand Arrows Monarch said in a loud voice, "You guys clean up the battlefield. Divide the valuable things among yourselves." The so-called valuable things were armors and weapons, which could be sold or kept for their own use. As for the storage rings, Thousand Arrows Monarch only collected 20, which belonged to the demons that had died in his hands. He didn't care about the rest. After all, they ate the meat, so they had to leave some soup for others to drink. Hearing these words, everyone was very happy. Most of them joined the army not only for the handsome pay and treatment, but also for the war wealth. Armors and weapons were worth a lot of yuan stones. Occasionally, if they were lucky, they might even have a lot of yuan stones in their storage rings. It had to be said that Thousand Arrows Monarch knew how to conduct himself. If it were any other commander, although they wouldn't go too far, they would definitely put their own interests first. How could they let go of the valuable things that they didn't have time to collect? In any case, according to the military rules, all ownerless things were distributed by the highest commander. This also stimulated many people to raise their ranks. Of course, the commander had no right to criticize the valuable things that were already in his own pocket. Yi Chen collected 66 storage rings, because he had killed 66 people in total. As for armors and weapons, he chose 20 to 30 of them, and the rest were not that valuable. Among the 66 people, there were 1 commander, 2 centurions, 15 high-ranking soldiers, 27 mid-ranking soldiers, and 21 low-ranking soldiers. These achievements could only allow Yi Chen to be promoted to high-ranking soldier, because in order to become a centurion, he had to kill 50 high-ranking soldiers, and he had only killed 15. Of course, this was only the first battle. The amount of yuan stones in 66 storage rings wasn't that much, adding up to only 100,000. But then again, it made sense. Nobody would come to the Black Tortoise ruins with all their belongings. If they died, wouldn't it be easy for the enemy? Cleaning up the battlefield and dividing the valuables was not a quick process. Only Yi Chen's group of 7 and another centurion, the Blood Fist King, didn't join in the fun. Haha, not a single person died this time. We wiped out all the enemies. In my opinion, if we wipe out a few more teams of demons, the news of our achievements in Yunlai military camp will spread. Liu Di laughed. Indeed, it is very possible. Sima Fei nodded. In the past, Thousand Arrows Monarch's highest record was killing 1,200 enemies, which could only be considered above average, not top. After all, sometimes there was nothing he could do if he couldn't encounter an enemy, or if he encountered a large team, he couldn't even escape in time. Thousand Arrows Monarch smiled and couldn't help but look at Yi Chen. Without Yi Chen's super-sensitive ability, they wouldn't have encountered this team of demons. He was thinking that perhaps Yi Chen could become a commander within a few years. Far away in the depths of the ruins, a huge team of 5,000 people was advancing. The leader of this team was one of the 3 battle emperors of the Yaksha deity paradise, the captain of the Bloodhammer team, Maul King. He had fought with Yi Chen and chased after Yi Chen and the Exorcist team. Being able to lead 5,000 people, Maul King was obviously a commander. Chapter 11:14. The pair of huge wings on his back flapped at high speed. King Maul didn't even need to exert much strength, his speed was as fast as lightning, fast as an arc of light. On his chest, there was a commander's badge. This commander badge was different from the ordinary Yaksha commander badges. There was an extra blood diamond on it, and the blood diamond shone with a terrifying light. If a human commander was here, he would definitely recognize this as the honorary commander badge of the Yaksha race, the Blood Diamond Commander Badge. Not every Yaksha commander had the opportunity to become a Blood Diamond Commander. There were only 50 Blood Diamond Commanders in the entire Yaksha clan. If the others wanted to become a Blood Diamond Commander, they had to have peerless martial strength. This was very important. If they didn't have this, they couldn't even think about it, because they didn't meet the requirements. The human race also had an honorary commander badge. Of course, it wasn't a blood diamond commander badge, but a purple gold one. Currently, the human race and demon race had about 54 purple gold commanders, slightly more than the Yaksha race's blood diamond commanders. Commander, there's a group of 1,000 humans 9 million li to the left. A Yaksha king clad in silver armor flew out from behind King Mol. 1,000-man team of the human race? King Mol's brows twitched. Lead a group of 700 and hold them back. I'll lead the troops to flank them. Not only was King Mol's martial prowess, but he was also good at commanding. He knew that if he led 5,000 people, the humans would definitely run away. If he sent a group of 1,000, the chances of the humans escaping wouldn't be low either. Everyone knew that the Yakshas were strong, their average quality even higher than the demons. Therefore, a group of 700 was just right. It wasn't too small, but it wasn't to the extent that the humans would lose the courage to fight and flee. Yes. Immediately, the silver-armored Yaksha king chose 700 people to chase after the human army. Commander, there's a group of 700 Yakshas coming. A centurion came to report. 700 Yaksha kings. The commander of the human army was a purple-robed old man. Hearing the news, a smile appeared on his face. Let's meet them. Tell everyone to prepare for battle. Yes. The centurion retreated. For ordinary life and death kings, 9 million li could be covered in 40 breaths of time. Soon, the two sides could see each other. Humans, you're dead. Kill. The chief of the Yaksha tribe raised his spear high in the air and charged forward with his men. You bunch of birdmen, why didn't you stay in your nest? You came out to die. The purple-robed old man shouted and led his men forward. Boom 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 boom. Both sides began to attack each other from tens of thousands of miles away. Dazzling streams of light shot out like a meteor shower, creating a spectacular scene. One by one, both human and Yaksha soldiers were smashed to pieces. However, more and more soldiers rushed forward. In the end, the two sides collided, creating waves of stormy waves. Shattering tornado. The purple-robed elder's weapons were two huge scimitars. As he spun, the scimitars spun along with him. In the next moment, a tornado formed by the scimitars blasted toward the 4 Yaksha soldiers in front of him. Poochie poochie. The 4 Yaksha soldiers were instantly minced into a mist of blood and vanished into nothingness. Old fogey, die. The chief of the Yaksha tribe sneered and slashed down with his spear. 3 human soldiers in front of him exploded, but the spear didn't stop there. It continued to attack the purple-robed elder. I'm afraid of you. The purple-robed elder shattered the spear with his scimitar. The battle was intense. In just a few dozen breaths, both sides had lost over 100 soldiers. What the purple-robed elder didn't know was that enemies were closing in from all directions. There were 800 Yaksha soldiers in the east, 1,200 in the west, 1,000 in the north, and 1,300 in the south. An inescapable net had silently sealed off the battlefield. In the east, King Mol led 800 Yaksha soldiers and flew at full speed. More than 100 of our soldiers died. What a disgrace to our tribe. King Mol was a little annoyed when he sensed that more than 100 of his men had died. The Yaksha tribe worshipped strength. Whether it was an individual battle or a group battle, they had to win cleanly. In King Mol's opinion, 700 Yaksha soldiers should have the upper hand against 1,000 human soldiers. Another dozen breaths passed, and King Mol could finally see the two sides fighting. Kill them. King Mol roared, the sound waves rumbled. Kill. 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 From all directions, the Yaksha soldiers swarmed into the battlefield like a tidal wave. There were too many of them, a total of 4,300, while there were less than 900 human soldiers on the battlefield. Not good. The purple-robed elder's expression changed, but he didn't panic. He was just a little surprised and caught off guard. Everyone, hold on. The purple-robed elder's voice was firm. Hold on. Let's see how you're going to hold on. The silver-armored Yaksha king sneered as his attacks became fiercer. However, just when he thought that the human troop was trapped, battle cries came from all directions again. It was definitely not the Yakshas' battle cries, because there were only 5,000 Yakshas in total, so it was impossible for so many people to shout. But if it was not the Yakshas, then who could it be? Haha, our main force is here. The purple-robed elder laughed heartily as his heart calmed down. Kill these birdmen, kill them all. From all directions, a total of 4,000 human soldiers surrounded them. Their battle cries shook the heavens and earth, and their killing intent filled the air. Their leader was also a commander, but it was a human commander. He was a square-faced middle-aged swordsman who wore a silver robe. However, his brows were slightly furrowed, as if he felt that the situation was not easy to control. In fact, the 1,000 men led by the purple-clothed old man were part of his forces. The reason why they were separated was to act as bait to attract the enemy's attention while the main force surrounded them. Although this plan was simple, it was very effective. It had been tried and tested in the Black Tortoise ruins. However, he did not expect that the enemy they encountered was not a small force, but a group of 5,000 men like them. Moreover, the other party had chosen a similar battle plan as him. They would first use 700 Yakshas as the vanguard while the main force surrounded them. The situation on the battlefield was a little funny. More than 1,000 humans and Yakshas were fighting fiercely in the center, while more than 4,000 Yakshas surrounded them. At the outermost layer, there were 4,000 human soldiers. In total, there were 3 layers of them, and no one could escape from the encirclement. Such a chaotic situation made everyone feel pessimistic, and a tragic atmosphere filled the air. Boom, boom, boom. A battle of 5,000 against 5,000 wasn't something that 1,000 against 700 could compare to. The scene was grand, magnificent, and grotesque. It was like a shocking abstract painting, and everyone present was a part of this abstract painting. As a commander, the silver-robed swordsman was naturally not weak. The heavy 9-ringed blade in his hand was like a giant axe that could split the heavens and earth. Wherever he chopped, there would be Yakshas falling. In just a short while, more than 30 Yakshas had died in his hands, and the number was still rising. But compared to the Mole King, he was still lacking. The Mole King's meteor hammer was a terrifying killing weapon. As long as he swung it forward, at least a few human soldiers would be smashed to death or sent flying by the powerful force. Then, he would grab the chain tightly and swing it. The meteor hammer connected to the chain was like a death scythe, reaping lives on the battlefield. In a short time, the number of human soldiers that died in his hands reached 80. Get back! Seeing the blood-colored war hammer reaping the lives of his soldiers, the silver-robed swordsman brandished his blade and slashed at the blood-colored war hammer. Bang! What shocked the silver-robed swordsman was that although his saber had split open the blood-colored war hammer, the saber light he had sent out had also been shattered, and the saber light had been reversed. So strong! The silver-robed swordsman raised his head and looked at the chain. What entered his eyes was a powerful Yaksha king with skin no different from a human's. His right hand was holding onto the egg-thick chain, and his left hand was holding onto the blood-colored war hammer. All of a sudden, the silver-robed swordsman's face paled. His eyes were fixated on the commander badge on the opponent's chest. That blood-colored diamond was extremely eye-catching. It's a blood diamond commander badge. The silver-robed swordsman turned around, wanting to escape. He was no match for a blood diamond commander. There were only about 50 blood diamond commanders in the Yaksha clan, and each of them had the strength of a 7th-layer life and death monarch. In other words, they had the strength of a battle emperor. Among human commanders, only a purple gold commander could contend against a blood diamond commander. You think you can run away? Holding the chain tightly in his right hand, Mole King swung it a few times. With a deep roar, the blood-colored war hammer shot out. Crackle! The blood-colored hammer shadow mixed with frightening lightning heavily bombarded the silver-robed swordsman's back. Crackle! The silver-robed swordsman's entire body disintegrated and burned into ashes. Extreme Second Revolution martial skill, Blood Thunder Hammer. What? The commander is dead. Impossible. How can this be? The human soldiers in the surroundings saw this scene, and their minds went blank. It had to be said that the commanders were the spiritual pillars of the soldiers. Once the commander fell, the spiritual pillars of the soldiers would collapse as well. At this moment, if there was no one to turn the tide, only death awaited them. Although they were all life and death monarchs, and their mental fortitude was not that bad, they were no different from ordinary people in this desperate battlefield. Your commander is dead. He died in the hands of me, Mole King. Mole King's loud roar shook the entire battlefield. Aoo! The human soldiers were in a miserable state while the Yaksha soldiers roared continuously, their morale greatly boosted. Mole King, long time no see. Right at this moment, a special troop entered the battlefield. This troop consisted of 7 people, and they swept through everything in their way. None of the Yaksha soldiers in their way could last even half a breath. Chapter 11:15. Mole King turned around and couldn't help but mock, "So it's you. What? You didn't scare me last time, and now you've come knocking on my door." He had long since heard about Yi Chen escaping unscathed from Blade Demon King, Dueling King, and Zack King. As far as he was concerned, Yi Chen was merely a peak half-step emperor proficient in Space Profound. Perhaps he would become a battle emperor in the future, but not now. How could a battle emperor's strength be so easy to reach? Not bad, I've come knocking on your door. I wonder how you're going to stop me. Moving like a dragon, Yi Chen unceasingly slashed out huge faintly golden sword chi. These sword chi were indistinct. Not to mention ordinary Yaksha kings, even a 5th-layer life and death realm Yaksha king would fall under these indistinguishable sword chi. They wouldn't even have the time to react. Extreme Second Revolution martial skill, 1000 Flower Snatch. Among all the Extreme Second Revolution martial skills, 1000 Flower Snatch was the weakest in terms of single target attack. However, its attack range was the largest, and its sword chi was the most concentrated. Against these ordinary Yaksha kings, 1000 Flower Snatch was more effective than Sun Essence Extreme Transformation. The attack of Sun Essence Extreme Transformation formed a straight line, which was suitable for dealing with true experts. With one swing of his sword, more than 10 Yaksha soldiers died in Yi Chen's hands. With 4 swings, he had killed nearly 50 people. This killing speed was not that high for Yi Chen. It was mainly because the Yaksha soldiers were in a chaotic battle with the human soldiers, and Yi Chen had to control the direction of the sword chi. Otherwise, he could easily kill his own people. Boasting shamelessly, Mole King charged toward Yi Chen with his blood-colored warhammer. In a short period of time, the 500 warriors led by the Yi Demon Squad had already killed more than 150 Yaksha soldiers. If this continued, the Yaksha race's advantage would be completely gone. He couldn't allow such a thing to happen. Therefore, his top priority was to take care of Yi Chen as soon as possible and annihilate the Yi Demon Squad. Peng peng peng. Along the way, Mole King's left hand clenched into a fist and continuously punched out. One after another, the human soldiers exploded into blood mists. Yi Chen, die. From tens of thousands of li away, Mole King sent a hammer light toward Yi Chen. Dang! Yi Chen countered with a backhand strike, splitting the hammer light apart. I'll go meet him. Yi Chen said to the Myriad Arrows monarch. Okay, be careful. The 1000 Arrow monarch nodded. He had already learned from Yi Chen that Yi Chen had reached the 10th level of the God of War pagoda and was a true battle the arch. You too. Yi Chen glanced at the 6 Yaksha kings flying over from afar. These 6 Yaksha kings were members of the Bloodhammer battle team, and each of them had the strength of a quasi-emperor. Don't worry. This time, I will definitely kill a commander. In order for the Myriad Arrow monarch to become a commander, he had to personally kill a commander-level enemy. Among these 6 Yaksha kings, 2 of them were commanders. 3 flowers appeared on top of his head, 1 red, 1 yellow, and 1 blue. With the help of the 3 flowers, Yi Chen's essence, chi, and spirit multiplied. His battle prowess also multiplied, and his aura became sharp. Whoosh! In a flicker, Yi Chen appeared in front of King Mole, thrusting his sword forward. Space Profound Sword Art Moment of Glory. Get lost. King Mole felt his movements become much slower, as if he was stuck in a swamp. Enraged, he raised his battle prowess to the limit, instantly entering the Selfless Emperor realm, and raised his blood-colored war hammer to block the sword. Boom! A terrifying shockwave erupted, and dozens of soldiers within 1,000 miles were sent flying, regardless of whether they were friend or foe. A few unlucky ones didn't even have the time to scream before they disintegrated. The soul imprints in their flesh were destroyed by the too powerful intents, and they died completely. Both sides were sent flying back a few hundred miles, but they quickly clashed again. Every clash was a real contest, and from the looks of it, Yi Chen was at a disadvantage. So that's how it is. I didn't expect you to already have the strength of a battle the arch. No wonder you are so arrogant. But do you think you can fight me just because you have the strength of a battle the arch? Dream on. After a dozen rounds, King Mol had more or less understood Yi Chen's true strength. He sneered, swinging the iron chain with both hands like a flaming wheel, hammering at Yi Chen again and again. The blood-red hammer light was like a raging storm, never ending. Yi Chen's eyes were 10 times sharper than an eagle's eyes. After being forced back a few hundred miles, he suddenly struck out with his sword. Clang! The rapidly spinning blood-colored war hammer was knocked away by the sword, and sparks flew everywhere, leaving King Mol wide open. Die! The dragon spring sword slashed out, and a white dragon-like sword chi slammed onto King Mol's chest. Puff! A mouthful of blood spurted out from King Mol's mouth, and he was sent flying. Just a mouthful of blood. Yi Chen was stunned for a moment, then suddenly realized. Right, I almost forgot, he is one of the 3 battle emperors of the evil god paradise. He must have a low-level heavenly king set. In that case, it will be difficult to kill him. A low-level heavenly king set was no small matter. After wearing it, one could basically ignore the attacks of a quasi-emperor. Even the strongest quasi-emperor wouldn't be able to break through its defense. At most, one could transmit a little force through the set. For example, Yi Chen didn't manage to break through King Mol's defense, otherwise, it wouldn't be as simple as just spitting out a mouthful of blood. A battle emperor with a heavenly king set was like adding wings to a tiger. In terms of combat strength, a battle emperor's greatest weakness was defense. It couldn't be said that the stronger one's attack was, the stronger one's defense would be. Generally speaking, it was already very heaven-defying for a battle emperor to be able to withstand a quasi-emperor's attack head-on. After all, under normal circumstances, one's attack would weaken the opponent's attack, and the chance of being hit was very small. Haha, your attack is too weak, it can't even break through my defense. King Mol touched his chest and laughed out loud. At the same time, he was a little surprised that his opponent could actually break through his hammer art, leaving him wide open. Is that so? This is just the beginning. With the silver armor set's 40% increase in energy, Yi Chen barely had the strength of a battle emperor without using the Sun Essence Extreme Transformation, but it was a different story when he used the Sun Essence Extreme Transformation. Mph, let's see how you're going to break through my defense. King Mol was very confident in his defense. Although his combat strength was at the level of a low-level battle emperor, a mid-level battle emperor would have a hard time killing him. He could definitely resist for a period of time and escape unscathed. Of course, his opponent's speed couldn't be that much faster than him. Compared to Yi Chen, his biggest advantage was his higher cultivation and the Anatta realm. These 2 points allowed him to utilize the attributes of the Copper Demon set to the maximum. Commander, let's join forces and kill him. Right at this moment, a dozen Yaksha kings appeared beside King Mol. They were 3 minor lieutenants, 9 centurions, and 2 high-ranking soldiers. When they saw that King Mol couldn't do anything to Yi Chen, they decided to join forces with King Mol to kill Yi Chen. As long as they could kill Yi Chen, they would definitely win this war. King Mol's expression changed several times, but in the end, he resolutely nodded, all right. This was a battlefield. The first thing to consider was how to kill the opponent. As for how to kill the opponent, it didn't matter. Listen to my command, attack together. King Mol unleashed his soul force and locked onto Yi Chen from afar. Immediately, he swung his blood-colored war hammer again, his aura surged, and when it reached its limit, he launched an attack. Kill. King Mol roared in anger, the blood-colored war hammer turned into a blood-colored meteor and shot out. Third Revolution martial skill, Meteor Annihilation. Kill. Kill. The The dozens of Yaksha kings around King Mol also unleashed their ultimate attacks. Yi Chen ignored all the killing moves coming at him. He held the dragon spring sword with both hands and raised it high above his head. In the next moment, countless drifting lights in the starry sky gathered towards him. These lights were the essence of fire Yuan Qi, yang Yuan Qi, light Yuan Qi, and even the various kinds of energies that were bursting out from the battlefield were extracted by Yi Chen. Everything had its yin and yang sides. The extreme sun essence transformation was a sword of extreme yang. In fact, the extreme sun essence transformation was extremely powerful even if it didn't absorb any external energy, but it wasn't under Yi Chen's control. As long as Yi Chen used the extreme sun essence transformation, the dragon spring sword would automatically absorb the available energy. Ha! With a loud shout, Yi Chen swung his sword down. Boom! A dazzling light that was comparable to a supernova explosion spread out at the speed of light. At this moment, everyone on the battlefield was dazzled by this dazzling light, and they couldn't help but close their eyes. Even the soul power they released was slightly disrupted, causing a blank space to appear in front of them. It was as if a sun had risen in the silent and dark ruins, releasing all of its energy. Like snow melting under the scorching sun, the dozen Yaksha kings beside King Mol instantly melted, turning into wisps of green smoke that dissipated in the air. As for King Mol himself, he was the target that Yi Chen paid special attention to, so he bore about 90% of the power. His eyes bulged out, and his body twisted crazily under the intense light. His shadow elongated to its limit, and was eventually swallowed by the light. When the light gradually dissipated, King Mol's figure was revealed. The blood-colored war hammer in his hand was sent flying, floating in the vacuum tens of thousands of li away. His body was covered in blood, and his body was covered in blisters. His appearance was miserable, and his aura was weak. With just a single slash, Yi Chen killed more than a dozen Yaksha kings and gravely injured King Mol. This kind of strength could only be achieved by a mid-level combat emperor. Of course, Yi Chen did have the strength of a mid-level combat emperor. Yi Chen, don't even think of killing me. King Mol couldn't be bothered to recover from his injuries, nor did he bother to pick up the blood-colored war hammer. He turned around, and with a burst of speed, he flew towards the north. Yi Chen's soul power locked onto King Mol, and a golden halo shot out from his forehead. The speed of the golden halo was so fast that King Mol staggered, and his face paled. Before this, he had already executed a soul defense secret art to guard against Yi Chen's soul attack. However, he didn't expect Yi Chen's soul attack to be 10 times stronger than he had imagined, and his soul defense couldn't withstand it at all. As the golden halo shot out, Yi Chen followed it up with a soul light, which heavily injured King Mol's soul. After doing all this, Yi Chen raised the dragon spring sword up high, and after taking a deep breath, he executed the Sun Essence Extreme Transformation for the second time. A blinding light engulfed King Mol. Pop! A seal entered the badge of a low-level soldier. It was the commander's seal. This meant that King Mol was dead. Chapter 11:16. It wasn't easy at all. Seeing that Mol King was dead, Yi Chen let out a heavy breath. He could kill Mol King because of 2 factors. First, he had the strength of a mid-level combat emperor, and second, he had a powerful soul power. Moreover, he had a soul attack like Yuan Spirit Lock. Without either of these factors, he wouldn't have been able to kill Mol King. With a suction force, Mol King's low-grade Heavenly King armor, blood-colored war hammer, and storage ring were pulled over by an invisible force and landed in Yi Chen's hand. It was a green-black armor with a demonic beast head, but it was flattened. Even after enduring 2 extreme Sun Essence transformation attacks from Yi Chen, there were only 2 marks left on it. Under normal circumstances, a low-grade Heavenly King armor would cost no less than 3 million yuan stones. The reason it was so expensive was because there was no market for it. Once it appeared, it would inevitably cause a fight. The rarer something was, the more valuable it was. This logic was applicable everywhere. Erasing the soul imprint on the storage ring, Yi Chen poured his soul power into it. Mol King had brought a lot of yuan stones with him, at least 500,000. Yi Chen realized that a war could make him rich. Up until now, he had already obtained more than 600,000 yuan stones, and this didn't include the fortune he was about to receive. Commander is dead. Run. Many Yakshaw soldiers saw this scene and immediately thought of retreating. Mole King was a blood diamond commander, 10 times more powerful than ordinary commanders. If such a powerful existence was killed, how could they stop Yi Chen? After all, Yi Chen wasn't alone. There were thousands of human soldiers on the scene. Without exaggeration, if they didn't run, Yi Chen alone could kill them all in a short time. Impossible. How could Captain die in his hands? The ones who couldn't accept this the most were undoubtedly the members of Bloodhammer battle team. They couldn't believe that Yi Chen, who was still a demonic emperor 2 years ago, had the strength to kill Mole King. It wasn't that Mole King hadn't fought against mid-level combat emperors before. Out of the 5 times, he was able to escape unscathed. Logically speaking, only a high-level combat emperor could kill Mole King in an instant. There's no time to lose. Let's go. With the death of the Mole King, the 6 members of the Bloodhammer battle team fled without any hesitation. With the strength of a half-step emperor, escaping was too easy for them. Where are you going? The myriad arrow monarch shot out 14 arrows in a row, and each arrow had the power to severely injure an ordinary quasi-emperor. Lu Wenjie's spear arts erupted to their limits. A giant blood flower bloomed in the ruins. This blood flower was formed from countless smaller blood flowers. In the center of the blood flower, there was a spear light that wanted to devour its target. Liu Di, Sima Fei, Zhong Yinyan, and Yuan Hong also attacked their opponents with all their might. Unfortunately, both sides were equally powerful, and there was a limit to how much stronger they could be. Moreover, the human and Yakshaw soldiers were fighting everywhere, which hindered them to a certain extent. What a pity. The myriad arrow king stopped chasing and turned his attention to the Yakshaw soldiers. Every time he released the bowstring, 3 or 4 Yakshaw soldiers would fall. Every arrow was fatal. The Yakshaw soldiers began to crumble and flee in panic. Yi Chen took advantage of the chaos and killed more than 400 of them. In the end, only 1,000 managed to escape. Of course, the human soldiers were in a miserable state as well. At a glance, there were less than 3,000 of them left, including the 500 led by the myriad arrow king. As the saying went, kill 1,000 enemies, lose 800. 5,000 against 5,000, it was basically impossible to completely annihilate the enemy. Only if one's soldiers were 10 times more powerful than the enemy's would one have complete confidence. Adding the 40 or 50 people he had killed before, Yi Chen had killed nearly 500 people in total, obtaining more than 400 storage rings, 100 armors, and 300 weapons. It was quite a bountiful harvest. Everyone, many thanks for your help. This Liu can't thank you enough. The purple-robed old man's luck was quite good. Even the leaders had died, but he had survived until the end. There was a saying that old ginger was spicier, and the old had more experience. The myriad arrow king said, in the Black Tortoise ruins, we are all comrades. No need to be grateful. The dead had already died, and the wealth they had left behind made everyone a small fortune. Nearly 4,000 Yakshaw soldiers had died, and 2,000 human soldiers had died. In total, there were more than 6,000 soldiers. In other words, there were more than 6,000 treasures on the battlefield. Among these 6,000 treasures, there might be a few that could save them decades or even hundreds of years of hard work. Of course, Yi Chen and the rest had collected a lot of wealth, and the number of treasures left on the battlefield was only about 3,000 to 4,000. Yi Chen didn't check the number of yuan stones in the storage rings one by one. It wouldn't be too late to check after returning to the gold armor planet. You should have seen Yi Chen's strength. His strength is comparable to a purple gold commander. With him alone, no matter how many experts there are, we won't have to be afraid. A troop of 1,000, we can eat as many as we want, and we don't have to be afraid of a troop of 5,000. Myriad Arrow King tried his best to persuade the purple-robed old man. The purple-robed old man pondered for a while, then firmly nodded, "All right, the bold will die, and the cowardly will die. After this, we won't have to risk our lives for the next 10 years. He had seen Yi Chen's strength with his own eyes. Just as Myriad Arrow King had said, as long as Yi Chen was here, they indeed didn't have to be afraid. If they didn't seize this opportunity to make some money, there wouldn't be another chance in the future. Moreover, apart from Yi Chen, Myriad Arrow King and the other 5 were also frightening experts. The 7 of them could be compared to thousands of people on the battlefield. But, I still have to discuss it with the other 2 commanders. The purple-robed old man said again. Myriad Arrow King nodded. A short while later, the purple-robed old man flew over with a smile on his face. They agreed. No one was a fool. Who would be willing to give up such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? Cowards wouldn't join the army and enter the Black Tortoise ruins. Just like that, the 2 teams merged together and became one team. The team was temporarily led by the purple-robed old man as the overall commander, while the other 2 were his deputies. As for Yi Chen and the other 6, although their military ranks were slightly lower, they could still speak for them. After all, they would still need to contribute when the time came. Time flowed like water, and soon, 1.5 months passed. In this 1.5 month, led by the purple-robed old man and assisted by Yi Chen and the others, the team of 3,000 people annihilated 15 enemy teams. 9 teams of 500 people and 6 teams of 1,000 people, for a total of around 10,000 people. During this time, Yi Chen also discovered a team of 5,000 people, but Yi Chen didn't say it out loud. With their strength, they could indeed defeat an enemy team of 5,000 people, but they would inevitably suffer heavy losses. After all, no matter how fierce he was, he couldn't annihilate too many enemies in a short period of time. He didn't want too many human soldiers to die because of him. After another 3 days, everyone finally decided to leave the Black Tortoise ruins. On the Myriad Arrow King's emerald green warship, everyone was drinking and chatting loudly, looking very excited. They had come with 500 people, but by the time they returned, they had only lost 20 people. This was a very small loss. Most importantly, everyone who returned had a bountiful harvest. Some soldiers had even obtained tens of thousands of yuan stones and 20 supreme-grade artifacts, while the least had several thousand yuan stones. With 4 or 5 supreme-grade artifacts, how could they not be excited? It should be known that ordinary life and death kings only had 1 or 2,000 yuan stones, and this was even if they lived frugally. In the universe, there were countless life and death kings, and they were merely ordinary people. For their entire lives, they had to worry about earning yuan stones or raising their cultivation base. Therefore, when an opportunity presented itself, they were willing to take risks. Although joining the army seemed dangerous, it was actually a way to make money. Of course, if one were to say who had the most harvest, it would naturally be Yi Chen. Yi Chen had obtained a total of 1,200 storage rings and 1,000 supreme-grade artifacts. In these 1,200 storage rings, there were 2 million yuan stones, which was several times more than Yi Chen's net worth, turning him into a millionaire. As for the 1,000 supreme-grade artifacts, although their value was less than 2 million yuan stones, it was still not a small amount. In the weapon shop, a low-grade artifact was worth 200 to 300 yuan stones, a mid-grade artifact was worth 500 to 700 yuan stones, and a high-grade artifact was worth 1,000 to 1,500 yuan stones. With an average of 700 yuan stones per artifact, Yi Chen's 1,000 supreme-grade artifacts had a total value of 700,000 yuan stones. This didn't even include the Mall King's copper demon armor and blood-colored war hammer, because these 2 alone were worth several million yuan stones. In short, Yi Chen's harvest in this trip to the Black Tortoise ruins was more than 5 million yuan stones. I don't have to worry anymore. Drinking a mouthful of wine, Yi Chen smiled. He had never thought that war was a way to make money. No, it was a way to make a fortune. Coming a few times a year, after 10 years, his net worth would be at least tens of millions. Apart from wealth, Yi Chen's kill count was shocking. In the last 2 months, he had killed a total of 1,550 enemies, including 1 commander, 5 major commanders, 11 minor commanders, 43 centurions, 200 high-ranking soldiers, 400 mid-ranking soldiers, and 700 low-ranking soldiers. With this calculation, Yi Chen could already be promoted to major commander. As for commander, he was still a bit short, as he needed to kill 2 commanders. 10 commanders, and Yi Chen was still short of half. After all, there was only 1 commander in a troop of 1,000, and 1 commander in a troop of 5,000. Returning to the Heaven Eye Star, everyone teleported to the Gold Armor Star through the teleportation array. Gold Armor Star Soldier City's northern palace, this place was responsible for checking the battle records. Troop of 1,000 people, lost 420 people, killed 832 people, average battle record. Troop of 5,000 people, lost 1,842 people, average battle record. Troop of 500 people, lost 300 people, killed 252 people, average battle record. From time to time, a clear and cold voice came from the palace. It was a woman's voice. It turned out that every time a troop went to war, there would be a battle record evaluation. If the number of people lost exceeded the number of enemies killed, then the battle record would obviously be bad. If the number of people lost was less than the number of enemies killed, then the battle record would be evaluated as average or high. However, up until now, there was not a single high battle record. Instead, most of the low battle record was low. Thinking about it, with the same number of people, the human race did not have any advantage. Chapter 11:17. Soon, it was Yi Chen's team's turn. First was the individual score evaluation, starting from the 1,000 Arrow King, who had the highest military rank. Military rank, Minor Lieutenant. The number of enemies killed is 420. Among them, 10 are great commanders, 3 are minor commanders, 9 are centurions, 85 are upper-class soldiers, 120 are middle-class soldiers, and 202 are lower-class soldiers. If you kill a great commander, 35 are minor commanders, and 120 are centurions, you can be promoted to great commander. Military contribution points, 607,000. Individual battle score, 3 stars, average battle score, 2 stars. The 1,000 Arrow King's battle score was undoubtedly brilliant. The number of enemies he killed alone was equivalent to a team of 1,000. He was also officially promoted to lieutenant. Next were the 5 centurions. Among the 5 centurions, Zhong Yinyin killed the most enemies with 320, followed by Sima Fei with 310, Liu Di with 300, and Yuan Hong with 293. As for the Blood-Fist King, he had the least with only 50. After all, he was just an ordinary centurion, so his individual strength wasn't very high. Apart from the Blood-Fist King, Zhong Yinyin and the other 3 were promoted to minor lieutenants. Lu Wenjie was originally a senior soldier, but this time, he was also promoted to minor lieutenant. His kill count was slightly higher than Zhong Yinin's, 345. If the achievements of the previous 6 people were already quite glorious, then the achievements of Yi Chen, a low-ranked soldier, were undoubtedly brilliant. Military rank, Junior Soldier. 1,550 enemies killed, 1 commander, 5 major generals, 11 minor generals, 43 centurions, 290 high-ranking soldiers, 465 middle-ranking soldiers, and 735 low-ranking soldiers. Killing 1 commander, 5 major generals, 11 major generals, 43 centurions, 290 high-ranking soldiers, 465 middle-ranking soldiers, and 735 low-ranking soldiers will result in promotion to the rank of Major General. Military contribution points, 1, 687 stars. Individual battle score, 5 stars, average battle score, 5 stars. The lady officer lifted up her head and studied Yi Chen. This kind of battle record was something that even the purple gold warriors would not be able to achieve. It was not because they were not powerful enough, but because they would not have the luck to run into so many enemies. The Black Tortoise ruins had to be calculated in light years, so it was quite possible that they would not run into 1 enemy in a week. This is your Commander-in-Chief badge. The cold female officer handed an orange badge to Yi Chen. Although the military insignia were made of the same materials, the colors were different according to their rarity. The insignia for low-ranked soldiers was white, the insignia for middle-ranked soldiers was gray, the insignia for high-ranked soldiers was green, the insignia for centurions was green, the insignia for minor lieutenants was yellow, the insignia for major lieutenants was orange, the commander was purple, the general was gold, and the marshal was blue and gold. Not long after, everyone's battle records were tallied up. Next, it was time to tally up the team's battle records. The team had 500 people. We lost 24 people and killed 4,830 enemies. Excellent results. Hiss. As the cold female official's voice rang out, the sound of people sucking in a breath of cold air could be heard in the main hall. A team of 500 people had only lost 24 people, and they had killed 4,830 enemies. This was too abnormal. The cold female officer had a rare smile on her face. Ever since she was in charge of the battle records, she rarely showed a smile. It wasn't because she was cold, but because she couldn't smile at all. According to her statistics, the loss ratio between humans and enemies had reached a shocking 2-to-1 ratio. In other words, for every 2 humans, only 1 enemy would die. If this was magnified, wouldn't it mean that 20 million humans had died and only 10 million enemies had died? The difference was too huge. Leaving the main hall, Yi Chen and the other 6 walked on the streets of the Armor Soldier City. How about we go to the secret spell tower and have a look? Zhong Yinyin suddenly suggested. Alright, it's been a long time since we went there. Zhong Yinin's suggestion was unanimously agreed by everyone. Yi Chen didn't object either. The secret spell tower was in the west of the Armor Soldier City. The tower was 7 floors high, and its whole body was emitting a 5-colored radiance. This 5-colored radiance was extraordinary. As soon as Yi Chen's soul power approached it, it was shattered, and his head started to hurt. The Thousand Arrow King said, "The secret spell tower is one of the most important places in the Gold Armor City. There are thousands of secret arts inside, including ordinary Earthrealm ones and Heaven Realm ones. As long as you have enough contribution points, you can exchange for any secret art you want. As for robbing it, that's just courting death. Not to mention the fact that there are countless experts on the Gold Armor planet, there are even life and death realm warriors at the 8th sky. Just the restriction of the secret spell tower is not something ordinary people can break. I heard that the restriction of the secret spell tower was set up by a 9th sky warrior. Trying to break it is equivalent to challenging a 9th sky warrior." Liu Di added. Arriving outside the secret spell tower, the 7 stopped for inspection. The inspection was actually very simple. All they had to do was look at their military badges. Anyone with military badges could enter, regardless of whether they were low-ranking soldiers or generals. "Alright, you can go in." The guard waved his hand and let them in. Entering the secret spell tower, Sima Fei said, "Go to the 2nd floor. The 1st floor has Earth Realm secret arts, which are very ordinary. The 1st floor had Earth Realm secret arts, and from the 2nd floor onwards, there were Heaven Realm secret arts. Any soldier could enter the 1st floor, but not everyone could enter the 2nd floor. One had to have more than 10,000 contribution points to enter the 2nd floor. As for the 3rd floor, it required 100,000, 1 million for the 4th floor, 10 million for the 5th floor, 100 million for the 6th floor, and 1 billion for the 7th floor. Arriving at the 2nd floor, the 7 stopped for a while and then went to the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor's secret arts were quite precious. Even Thousand Arrow King and the others would not choose to ignore them. They carefully looked at them to see if there was anything they liked. "I have the 3 flowers for fighting secret arts, Yuan Spirit Immortal for soul defense secret arts, and Yuan Spirit Lock for soul attack secret arts. I don't lack any of these for the time being. I wonder what's on the 4th floor." After walking around, Yi Chen did not find anything he liked, so he decided to go to the 4th floor. The 4th floor requires 1 million contribution points. The guard stopped Yi Chen. Yi Chen handed the commander's badge to the guard and let him check his contribution points. Soon, the guard returned the badge. "You can go up now." The military badge needed to be refined with blood. It was equivalent to identification. Through the military badge, the guard could check Yi Chen's military information. Naturally, he could also see Yi Chen's contribution points. It was very fast. On the 4th floor, Yi Chen began to look around earnestly. His contribution points were 1,687,000, so he couldn't go to the 5th floor. He hoped that the 4th floor would have a secret art that he wanted. Soul-breaking arrow, soul attack secret art. Requires 1.2 million contribution points. Soul armor, soul defense secret art. Requires 1.350,000 contribution points. Hidden dragon art, stimulates the hidden potential in the body. Requires 1.5 million contribution points. Stimulates potential? Yi Chen's eyes flashed. Chapter 11:18. In order to open the selfless realm, one needed to know one's own limits and then break through them. Yi Chen had never been able to determine where his limits were. No matter how much he pushed himself, he could still improve. Moreover, his soul power was too powerful, and his brain cells were abnormally active. This also increased the difficulty of opening the selfless realm, and he had yet to succeed. However, the hidden dragon art would be different. It could completely arouse the hidden potential within Yi Chen's body, which was equivalent to opening the selfless realm in disguise. Thinking about the secret arts needed to open the selfless realm, Yi Chen couldn't help but smile bitterly. He had successfully taught Lan Xian, allowing her to enter the selfless realm. He didn't expect that he, as her master, would have to rely on secret arts. The 4th floor already has a secret art like the hidden dragon art. What kind of earth-shattering secret arts will there be in the 5th, 6th, and 7th floors? How powerful will those who learn them become? Yi Chen suddenly realized that after the 6th layer of life and death realm, there was not only a gap in basic strength, but also a gap in knowledge. It was not an exaggeration to say that each step was like a different world. Spending 1.5 million contribution points, Yi Chen exchanged for the hidden dragon art. On the 3rd floor, Thousand Arrow King's group of 6 didn't find any secret arts that suited them. It was understandable. With their status and insight, ordinary secret arts were nothing in their eyes. Leaving the secret art tower, the 7 directly returned to the Rising Cloud military camp. No matter which camp it was, soldiers could only live in the soldier building, centurions lived in the centurion building, and lieutenants had their own small courtyards. Lieutenants had their own large courtyards with superior geographical conditions. Choosing an ownerless courtyard, Yi Chen moved in. There was still a month before the Snow Air Emperor would lead the army to the Black Tortoise ruins. He decided to use this time to try cultivating the hidden dragon art to minor completion. The hidden dragon art's cultivation method was very unique, so unique that it was Yi Chen's first time seeing it. It had a total of 9 postures. Learning 3 postures would be considered minor completion. Learning 6 postures would allow the hidden dragon art to enter the palace. Learning all 9 postures would allow the hidden dragon art to reach major completion. The first 3 postures were the golden rooster asking the question, parting the clouds, and suddenly looking back. The so-called golden pheasant seeking the way was actually standing on one leg with his palms together. His eyes seemed to be open but not closed, and his mind was clear and unaffected by the outside world. This posture seemed easy, but it was actually extremely obscure. There was nothing else. The posture was merely an outward appearance. What was truly important was the charm. Without the charm, no matter how good the outward appearance was, it was just a useless bag of skin. In the courtyard, Yi Chen maintained this posture, not moving an inch. 1 day passed. 2 days passed. On the 3rd day, the sun rose for the 3rd time. Every vital planet had a companion sun. In the first 2 days, Yi Chen didn't feel much about the morning sun. But on this day, Yi Chen's beer shone brightly. It seemed that the sunlight from the outside world not only illuminated the golden armor star but also his soul, giving him a new understanding from the inside out. His thoughts were extremely clear and agile. I see. Yi Chen slightly adjusted his posture, and in the next moment, a warm golden light spread out from his body. A faint divine charm spread out, giving off a feeling of turning something rotten into something magical. In his body, every cell was wriggling, releasing a warm power. This was the potential hidden deep in his body. The potential was endless, like a reservoir that could continuously provide power. Developing the potential did not mean squeezing out all the potential. That was impossible. Even if it was possible, no one dared to do it. The hidden dragon art was to fully stimulate the potential. For example, the reservoir originally provided power of 1, but now it could be increased to 2 or even 3. His mind was as calm as an ancient well. Yi Chen's whole body was immersed in a mysterious state. In the blink of an eye, another 2 days had passed. Yi Chen had completely mastered the first posture, Golden Rooster asking. As time went by, the speed of potential development was getting slower and slower. Yi Chen knew that it was time to learn the second posture. The second posture was also very strange. It was still standing on one foot, but its body was leaning forward, its eyes looked forward, and its hands made a gesture to push away the clouds in front of it. Although the whole posture was still, it gave people a sense of movement, as if it was between the line of stillness and movement. The most important part of the first posture is the word ask, and the most important part of the second posture should be the word pull, right? Golden Rooster asking meant to explore the way of the outside world, so the word ask was the most important. According to Yi Chen's understanding, the second posture should be the word pull was more important. The whole posture also gave people a feeling of pushing away the clouds and seeing the blue sky. 5 days passed. No, could it be that I understood it wrong? The most important part is not the word pull ? Yi Chen had doubts. In the past 5 days, he did not make any progress at all. Instead, it made his blood boil, and he could not calm down. If it's not the word pull, what is it? Cloud. Fog. In the blink of an eye, the sun and moon alternated twice. Seems like I took it for granted. The most important part of pushing away the clouds is the word open. I didn't expect it to be the first thing I eliminated. That's right, the most important part of pushing away the clouds was the word open. Pulling was the beginning, and opening was the result. Only when the clouds were pushed away could one see the blue sky, and only then could one enter a new realm. This time, Yi Chen's body emitted a pale green light. The pale green light was extremely pure, like the color of the blue sky. It made one's heart open and fighting spirit high. In Yi Chen's body, the speed of the cells wriggling was far faster than during the Golden Rooster asking period. Wave after wave of potential surged out, combining with Yi Chen's true essence. After combining with a large amount of potential, the total amount did not increase, but the quality changed. In other words, Yi Chen's basic strength was increasing in an orderly manner. On the 15th day, Yi Chen officially learned the third posture and suddenly turned back. This posture was more difficult than the previous two combined. It maintained the posture of pushing away the clouds, but its head had to turn and look behind it. What was behind it? Suddenly turned back. Why did it turn back? Reflecting on the past. It wasn't until the 30th day that Yi Chen understood. Suddenly turned back was not to see what was behind it, nor was it reflecting on the past. Instead, it was to tell you that the previous two postures were the Golden Rooster asking and the pushing away the clouds. Could he do 2 poses with 1 pose? That was impossible. Moreover, suddenly turned back already had a fixed posture. It was impossible to add the Golden Rooster asking and the pushing away the clouds. The posture could not be added, but the charm could. The charm of suddenly turned back was the Golden Rooster asking and the pushing away the clouds. The combination of the two charms was the charm of suddenly turned back. After a whole week, Yi Chen finally combined the charm of the Golden Rooster asking and the pushing away the clouds. His body emitted a golden green light. The hidden dragon art had reached the initial success stage. Chapter 11:19. With the initial success of the hidden dragon spell, something in Yi Chen's body seemed to crack. It was a shackle that stopped Yi Chen's progress. As this shackle was broken, Yi Chen vaguely found out where his limit was. Now, he only needed to break through this limit to open the selfless state. There are only 3 days left before the battle. I hope I can open the selfless state within these 3 days. Yi Chen continued to maintain the posture and charm of suddenly looking back. The potential in his body continuously flowed out, fusing with the increasingly pure and powerful true essence. The Yunlai barracks had been turbulent recently. Ever since the Snow Air Emperor announced that he would lead an army of 50,000 people to the Black Tortoise ruins, the number of people in the Yunlai barracks had been increasing. From the original 50,000 people, it had grown to the current 180,000 people. The extra 100,000 people were naturally not from the Yunlai barracks, but from the other barracks on planet Gold Armor. Currently, there was one general in the Yunlai barracks, and that was the Snow Air Emperor. There were more than 30 commanders, and 4 of them were the elusive purple gold commanders. There were hundreds of major commanders and minor commanders. Not to mention the centurions. Everyone wanted to join the Snow Air Emperor's army and make some money from the war. Because every time a general was dispatched, the enemies in the Black Tortoise ruins would be massacred, unless the enemy also dispatched a general. Unfortunately, a general could only command 50,000 people. The Snow Air Emperor had already appointed 4 commanders, 5 major commanders, and 8 minor commanders. The 4 commanders were naturally purple gold commanders. The 5 major commanders included the 1,000 Arrow King and Yi Chen. The 8 minor commanders included the other 5 members of the Exorcist Squad. As for the others, the Snow Air Emperor did not care who they were. In the wide courtyard, a terrifying aura suddenly burst out of Yi Chen's body. This aura flashed and disappeared, finally merging with Yi Chen's body. The next moment, Yi Chen's black hair grew longer at a visible speed, and his pupils became focused silver. It gave people the feeling that he had forgotten himself, yet was extremely self-centered. The selfless state. Success. Is this the selfless realm? Yi Chen felt that not only had his strength increased by a lot, but it had also become more concentrated. Every movement he made was in his best condition. In terms of effect, it was not as good as the 3 flowers borrowing of the way, which could double one's battle prowess. The first stage of the selfless state increased one's strength by about 70 to 80%, but it was still the first stage after all. There was still the second and third stages to come. Buzz. The air rippled like water as 3 illusory flowers appeared above Yi Chen's head. This was the sign of using the 3 flowers to borrow the Tao. However, just as the blue flowers were about to form, they suddenly collapsed. It's a pity that I can't use the 3 flowers borrowing the way while in the selfless state. It seems that regardless of whether it's the selfless state or the 3 flowers borrowing the way, I must be extremely focused and cannot be distracted. Yi Chen thought to himself as the 3 flower phantoms dissipated. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. The Snow Air Emperor had already gathered 50,000 men and horses. As for those who couldn't join the Snow Air Emperor, they could only hope that they would have the chance to join another general in the future. Let's go. The Snow Air Emperor waved his hand, and the 50,000 men left Planet Gold Armor through 10 large teleportation arrays. Planet Heaven Eye. Every day, tens of thousands of soldiers came to Planet Heaven Eye through the teleportation arrays. The arrival of such a large group immediately attracted the attention of the upper echelons of Planet Heaven Eye. Not long after, a general of Planet Heaven Eye flew over. So it's the Snow Air Emperor. This general of Planet Heaven Eye clearly recognized the Snow Air Emperor. The Snow Air Emperor smiled and said, "Iron Fist Emperor, long time no see." The army on Planet Heaven Eye changed every 100 years. It was the same for the generals and generals. The Iron Fist Emperor was one of the generals under the Great General of Planet Heaven Eye. He had been stationed on Planet Heaven Eye for more than 50 years. The Iron Fist Emperor looked to be in his 40s or 50s. He had a resolute expression on his face. He said, "Originally, I was going to have someone inform the other military planets. Just now, a group returned to Planet Heaven Eye. According to them, a group of 50,000 demons appeared in the Black Tortoise ruins. Now, with you leading the group, we should be able to suppress them." An army of demons. What a coincidence. The Snow Air Emperor smiled. As a human general, she naturally wouldn't be afraid of the demons. At their level, everything depended on strength. Be careful, we must show the might of our human race. The Iron Fist Emperor had a lot of confidence in the Snow Air Emperor. The Snow Air Emperor wasn't a 1-star general, but a 3-star general. The highest rank was a 5-star general. To become a general, apart from gaining the recognition of the 5 marshals, one had to be a 5-star general. As for becoming a 5-star general, it wasn't easy. One had to kill a 1-star general, a 2-star general, a 3-star general, and a 4-star general. In total, there were 4-star generals. Naturally, the Snow Air Emperor nodded. Just like that, the Snow Air Emperor led the 50,000 troops and rode on the battleship towards the depths of the Black Tortoise ruins. A large Heavenly Monarch battleship could only hold 5,000 people. Any more and it would be too crowded. 10 large Heavenly Monarch battleships. Yi Chen and the myriad Arrow Monarchs group of 7 rode on a black battleship. The owner of this battleship was an ordinary commander, the Black Mysterious King. With 50,000 troops, they naturally had to go deeper into the Black Tortoise ruins. Otherwise, it would be difficult to run into too many enemies. After a full 2 hours, the 10 battleships returned to the starry sky. Standing in front of everyone, the Snow Air Emperor turned back and said, "Now, we will begin the net operation. Remember, keep your distance. Don't spread out too much, and don't get too close." The so-called net operation was to split their forces into 100 teams, each with 500 people. These teams were led by the Snow Air Emperor as the center, with the 10 commanders as the backbone, and the 50 commanders as the meridians. Overall, it looked like a long net, sweeping away all the enemies in front. The net operation was very smooth. After a week, they had killed a total of 30,000 enemies. Basically, no enemy could escape from the net. Watch out, there's a big fish in front, 9 million li away. There's a small fish here, 7 million li to the right. There's a small fish in front. There were 100 teams, and the distance between each team didn't exceed 8 million kilometers. In this way, they could communicate with each other through secret soul techniques, and they wouldn't lose contact with each other. 1 big fish and 4 small fish. Divide into 5 groups. 30,000 people go to the big fish, 5,000 people go to each small fish. Eat them all. When the news reached the Snow Air Emperor immediately gave the order. The big fish represented 5,000 people, while the small fish represented 500 or 1,000 people. The net tightened, and by the time the enemies found out, they would have nowhere to run, as human soldiers were everywhere. Boom! Yi Chen moved quickly. The dragon spring sword was unsheathed, and a beam of sun-like sword chi pierced out. In a straight line, at least dozens of people were killed by this sword chi. The power of the extreme sun essence was extremely sharp. This was the time to snatch the enemies. Whoever made the first move, whose ultimate move was more powerful, would gain the most. Those who were too slow wouldn't even get the leftovers. In less than 10 minutes, all the enemies were killed. Facing the human army, which was 10 times their number, they didn't even have the qualifications to make a splash. After cleaning up the battlefield, the 100 teams spread out again, continuing to spread the net. "Commander, do you think we will encounter that 50,000 demons army this time?" Yi Chen's deputy, a junior commander, chatted with Yi Chen. "The probability is very low, but it's not impossible." The Black Tortoise ruins had a diameter of several hundred light years. On average, there were over 10 million people wandering around the ruins every day. The reason why there were so many was because the various races treated this place as a battlefield. There were humans, giants, barbarians, demons, evil spirits, yakshas, and other weaker races. However, even though there were many of them, there weren't many of them when they were spread out. It was easier said than done to encounter an evenly matched enemy army. Buzz! Just as the two were chatting, a spatial fluctuation suddenly appeared in the desolate ruins. This fluctuation was extremely vast, causing people's hearts to tremble. It should be known that the outer space was different from Elysium's space. The space here was the true space, containing the profound origin of the universe. Even ninth-layer life and death supremes couldn't create such a vast spatial fluctuation. Spatial fluctuation, what's going on? Everyone discussed spiritedly. Snow Air Emperor's brows creased. After a while, she said, "Everyone, gather. Let's go to the origin of the fluctuation." She had a feeling that this fluctuation was not ordinary. It would be a pity not to go and take a look. 50,000 people gathered once again. Under Snow Air Emperor's lead, they flew toward the origin of the fluctuation. The origin of the fluctuation was very far away. At this time, it was simply impossible to ride on the puppet battleship. The frightening spatial fluctuation could easily distort the battleship. 3 days later, everyone finally arrived near the origin of the fluctuation. It's right in front. Don't be careless. Snow Air Emperor warned. As they got closer to the origin of the fluctuation, more and more people appeared. Some were enemies, and some were allies. However, no one intended to kill each other at this time. Of course, they didn't dare to get too close to each other either. Finally, everyone found the origin of the fluctuation. This is. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. In their line of sight, a vast group of palaces appeared. The main color of the palaces was white, giving off a dignified and sacred feeling. Above the palaces was a black hole with a white edge. Clearly, the palaces came from the black hole. Otherwise, how could they not have discovered it before? The palaces were extremely huge. Every gate was several tens of thousands of li tall. The white pillars on both sides could be said to reach the sky, extending all the way into the black hole. Above them, there were 2 huge python carvings. The entire group of palaces emitted a hazy white sacred radiance. Under the illumination of the sacred radiance, the space of the ruins fluctuated unceasingly like a tide. Fortunately, although these fluctuations were frequent, they didn't contain any destructive power. The premise was that one didn't ride on the puppet battleship. Otherwise, one wouldn't even know how they died. Chapter 11:20. Could this be a miracle? In front of Yi Chen, the black mysterious monarch blurted out, but he didn't seem too sure. A miracle? Yi Chen sized up the black mysterious king. From the latter's expression, he could tell that this word did not refer to a miracle that everyone was talking about. It should refer to something real. Apart from miracles like the paradise of God, I've never seen any other miracles. I've only heard of them. But judging from this vast fluctuation and sacred aura, it should be a miracle. The myriad arrow monarch's heart stirred. What is a miracle? Yi Chen asked. The myriad arrow monarch explained, a miracle is the power of a true god in the mortal world. A true god can turn stone into gold, change the rules, and turn something rotten into something magical. Even a stone, as long as it is stained with a true god's power or aura, it will become extraordinary and become a rare treasure in the mortal world. Hearing the myriad arrow monarch's explanation, Yi Chen slightly nodded. God's star, God's ship, God's trial field, God's paradise, these were all unimaginable existences. They could only be described as miracles. And this group of shrines didn't seem to be inferior to the paradise of God. A miracle can only be chanced upon. Everyone, get ready. In front of everyone, the Snow Air Emperor's voice resounded. In fact, even without the Snow Air Emperor pointing it out, everyone knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If they missed this opportunity, they might not be able to encounter it again for the rest of their lives. Apart from the Snow Air Emperor and Yi Chen's side, there were also troops of other races in other directions. On the Devil Race's side, there was a team of 50,000 people. The leader of the Devil Race had 2 horns on his head and was extremely domineering. Beside him, there was a graceful female demon. This woman was about 1.8 meters tall and had extremely long legs. What was different from the horned Devil Race general was that the aura emitted from her body didn't have the slightest trace of devil chi. It was an overbearing and divine aura. Apart from the human clan and the demon clan, there were also many teams of 5,000 people present. Of course, most of them were teams of 1,000 people and 500 people. The total number of people was no less than 200,000 or 300,000, and it seemed like the number was increasing. Go. No one knew who was the first to fly towards the gate of the Divine Hall. Since there was a first, there would naturally be a second. In an instant, thousands of figures rushed towards the gate. Hiss! All of a sudden, the giant python relief on the sky-reaching pillar outside the gate of the Divine Temple came to life, its eyes shining with a red light. The giant python on the left extended its body and opened its mouth, sucking dozens of people into its mouth. The python on the right was unwilling to fall behind. With a flick of its tail, dozens of people were smashed into pieces. Not good, retreat quickly. Seeing this scene, the rest of the people flew back, and the people behind them unleashed their ultimate attacks, bombarding the giant python's body. Pu sounds rang out, stone fragments flew everywhere, and shallow pits appeared on the giant python's body. The two pythons were infuriated. They broke off from the heaven pillar and slithered through the crowd. Those who were hit by them were all smashed to pieces. Their bodies were badly mangled, and their top-grade armors were useless. Everyone, let's attack together. Although the Snow Air Emperor was not in a hurry to fly towards the gate of the Divine Temple, she was very clear that if they did not take care of these two pythons, they would definitely not be able to enter the Divine Temple. These two pythons were too fast. With a low roar, the Snow Air Emperor was the first to attack. With a palm strike on the body of one of the pythons, a crack appeared on the python's body. The wound was covered in frost, and a dark blue color appeared. Kill. There were at least 200,000 to 300,000 people present. When they attacked together, it was extremely powerful. The dazzling light was 10 times denser than a meteor shower, continuously bombarding the giant python's body. The giant python's body became thinner at a speed visible to the naked eye. This was the sign of most of its body being annihilated. Bang! The sky was filled with flying stones. One of the pythons was killed. Don't worry about them. Let's go in first. The two-horned demon's general did not care about the other giant python and led the 50,000 demons into the Divine Temple's gate. The inside of the Divine Temple's gate was misty white. Once they entered, they would not be able to see anything. After a while, the remaining giant python was also shattered. Stones flew everywhere, turning the outside of the Divine Temple's gate into a meteorite field. Go in quickly. If we are late, there will be nothing left. Like a swarm of bees, everyone rushed towards the Divine Temple's gate. Let's go in too. The Snow Air Emperor's figure flashed and turned into an icy blue shadow. Yi Chen and the others followed behind her. In the blink of an eye, there was not a single person outside the Divine Temple's gate. Everyone had entered the Divine Temple. Inside the Divine Temple, everyone is gone. Yi Chen's face flashed with surprise. Before entering, everyone was still together. After entering, he was the only one left. Taking a deep breath, Yi Chen looked around. This was a tunnel. The tunnel was straight and extended all the way to the end. Behind him was a wall. Without much hesitation, Yi Chen started walking towards the end of the tunnel. Soon, Yi Chen walked out of the tunnel. What appeared in front of him was a stone hall. There was only one door in front of the hall, which was closed. On the right side of the door was a cute stone rabbit statue. At this moment, many people were already standing in the hall. There were demons, yakshas, and green men. There were at least 50 of them. A faint smell of blood lingered in the air, as if a bloody battle had just taken place. Seeing Yi Chen, these non-humankind beings' eyes lit up. Just now, they had killed 7 human beings. Obviously, Yi Chen was also a human being. Die. Instantly, more than 10 non-humankind beings joined hands and attacked Yi Chen. Yi Chen's expression remained unchanged. He unsheathed the dragon spring sword and waved it. Swoosh, 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 sword chi swept across the hall. How could these non-humankind beings be a match for Yi Chen? They were instantly killed, and the soul imprints in their bodies were destroyed by Yi Chen's destructive sword intent. This is troublesome. Let's go. The pupils of the other non-humankind beings shrunk, and they hurriedly flew towards the door in front of the hall. Yi Chen shook his head, but didn't make a move. He saw the eyes of the rabbit statue open, its lower body stood up, and its hind legs straightened, making it look like a small human. Swoosh! A grey shadow flashed past, and a non-humankind being was beheaded. Strangely, although this non-humankind being had an immortal body, the moment his head was beheaded, he seemed to have lost his soul, and thus, his immortal body became a mere decoration. Soul absorption. Yi Chen's expression turned serious. Non-humankind beings died one after another. None of them could even last one round against the rabbit statue. As the number of non-humankind beings increased, the rabbit statue gradually became more and more real, and fur started to grow on its body. Save me. The last demons flew towards Yi Chen, trying to divert the disaster. Yi Chen's body flashed, and he dodged. You will die a horrible death. Before this demon died, he cursed Yi Chen. Yi Chen didn't care about the demon's words. His eyes were fixed on the rabbit. At this moment, the rabbit was no different from a real rabbit. Its fur was soft, and its ears were long and drooping. The rabbit tilted its head, and curiously looked at Yi Chen. However, its curiosity would cause fear in people. While it pretended to be cute, its legs were also gathering power. A grey shadow flashed, and the rabbit sprang towards Yi Chen. Sparks flew everywhere. Yi Chen blocked the rabbit's attack, and even bounced it back. Without stopping, Yi Chen performed Moment of Glory, and stabbed at the rabbit's throat. A strand of white fur floated in the air. Yi Chen's sword didn't kill the rabbit, but he could feel that it was like piercing a balloon, causing the rabbit's power to leak out. The rabbit's body turned back into a stone statue, and after a squeak, it crashed into the wall of the hall. No, it didn't crash, but merged with the wall, disappearing without a trace, as if it could go through the wall. God's power is truly unfathomable. Whether it was the python or the rabbit, they both had immense power, and they were nothing more than stones. After collecting all the storage rings, Yi Chen threw them into his own storage ring without even looking at them, then walked toward the door. Creak. The door opened automatically, and Yi Chen walked in. Death was happening all the time. The majority of people started to regret entering the palace. If they were given another chance, they would choose to turn around and leave. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Snow Air Emperor was also regretting. She knew that of the 50,000 people she brought, more than half of them would die. However, high risk also meant high reward. According to the legends, although the place was dangerous, there were a lot of treasures inside. As long as one could find one and successfully bring it out, it would definitely be sold for a high price. In a huge plaza, tens of thousands of people had gathered, and the number kept increasing. Yi Chen. Myriad Arrow King and the others discovered Yi Chen. You've arrived. Yi Chen walked over. Yeah, but the situation is not good. There are stone statues everywhere, and we've been surrounded. Myriad Arrow King pointed around the plaza. Yi Chen looked over and could not help but frown. There were indeed a lot of stone statues around the plaza. There were rabbit stone statues, piglet stone statues, pheasant stone statues, mountain goat stone statues. All in all of them looked rather cute. However, their power could not be described as cute at all. Instead, it was enough to make people's hair stand on end. Why aren't they attacking? Yi Chen felt that it was strange. Because of the plaza, as long as we stay in the plaza, we won't be attacked. Once we leave the plaza, we will be surrounded and killed. Many people have already been surrounded and killed. Zhong Yinyin explained. Snow Air Emperor frowned deeply. Of the 50,000 people she brought, only 20,000 were left. They had lost more than half of them. Fortunately, the plaza was very safe. As long as they didn't leave the plaza, there shouldn't be any deaths. Otherwise, it was unknown how many people would survive. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, there was a sound of an explosion. Everyone looked towards the source of the sound. The general demons led the 4 demons out of the plaza and were surrounded by the stone statues. However, these stone statues obviously couldn't do anything to the general demons and were all sent flying. The general demons and the 4 demons quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. Yi Chen, we will stay in the plaza. Myriad Arrow King and the others didn't plan to take the risk. The requirement for strength was too high. Without the strength of a combat emperor, it would be hard to move an inch. Although they knew that there would definitely be treasures in the place, they needed to be alive to enjoy them. All right. Yi Chen nodded. He also felt that it was better for Myriad Arrow King and the others to stay in the plaza. As for himself, he had to try his luck. This was a rare opportunity. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.